Hi, welcome everyone to the June 12th Ahrb meeting. We did not have a quorum at the last scheduled meeting, so we have 21, perhaps 22 items on the agenda. So I ask everyone to keep their presentations brief, please, if they would. The first applicant is for 74 Maple Street.
That you have before you reflects in the following areas the changes that we made, where we basically shifted the rear of the second floor further away from the property line to relieve the massing that was on the previous version. We moved approximately 5 feet further toward the park, and we lowered the roof line slightly and changed the slope slightly. So as a result, the program still works. We were able to keep the coverage variances that we had received, and I think we can address the concerns stemming from last week. What we're trying to show you a little bit, these are pictures. This imaginary line here is actually the property line. And this is a picture of the wall in question. And what we did, the second floor is highly non-conforming, 6'8" ceiling heights and so forth. So we're raising them to 7'8". We lowered the ceiling about 4 inches, and we pushed this back half further to the left. So in terms of volume, we're basically the same as what's there now, a little bit less. And what we're trying to do there
we can look at the orthographic drawings if this is an issue. I think so. Just to go through, we had the previous submission, which is this smaller packet, and we were initially looking at this diagram elevation of sky exposure plane versus the new one, which is on the larger sheet. And it seems to me as though you did two very positive things. The first is that the house is a much more attractive house, this second iteration. And there, it seems to be sort of an easier, we're looking at proposed elevation new house.
That's the new,
That's the wall.
that's the new
Oh, I'm
house.
sorry, this is the new house. Okay, so we're looking
Yeah.
at-
The new,
The house that we're
So we're looking at, okay, so we're looking first at,
This is what was there before.
what sheet is this?
It was made.
Oh, got it.
It's a-
So what are we, we're looking at two applications tonight? No, okay.
We were before you at the planning board's request to get relief from this variance for the plan.
For which,
For the Maple Street property. You have no problems with the DeVoe Street.
The Wall Street, this is, the Wall Street, do we have to take any action or no?
I don't think so, do we? No, okay, so that's already.
We
been
don't have a, the Wall is an okay,
Got it, okay,
So
so that was,
that's-
I didn't know if there was some change to that, because it was included in the packet. Okay, so we're only looking at
We're looking at,
Maple,
comment.
got it.
So the last time, this rear half of the house was co-planar with the first floor. And we moved it further
Mhm.
toward the park to give it a little bit more relief. And what we're doing here is not really, it's a 50-foot first floor addition on the, what would be the north east side, and about a 350-foot addition on the second floor, which we shifted, so that the rear half now is over. This is, coming up, approximately a foot and a half. If it's hit, the actual sky exposure plane is actually less encroaching on that, what we're proposing than what is now. The gable,
Steven, one quick question, what's the difference between this version and this, which one is the one that we are looking at?
This
one? Or this?
Because this has a shifted plan.
This one.
This one, so this one there was the previously same last time.
It just, part of this exercise was also to help us determine if there was if the original plan was a more architecturally meaningful solution than a more conforming one. And so, I think when we look at these, I think this is you have a good solution to the problem of relieving some of the sky exposure plane violation in the renovation. Do you have a sense that one of these schemes is, works better as a house, flows better with the sort of internal circulation, and did the change in the volume affect anything like that?
They're comparable. There's not really a great change or benefit from one scheme to the other in terms of, the use for the occupant. sense on the street because most of the houses are very simple. If we look, a little bit at, the exposure envelopes of the neighboring properties, they're not architectural wonders. They're fairly simple, straightforward homes. What we're doing, and you can see here, this is actually the peak of the ridge currently, which is about 2 feet further into the sky exposure plane than what we're proposing. As a volume, we're comparable to what is there now, by virtue of, we are raising the eave, again, the code mandating ceiling heights. And we're trying to, do so, the 7 to 8 is not really asking for
No.
too much. And, we're trying to keep the pitch fairly modest. So, we're trying to keep your last comments, and it still makes sense.
Hangs the dot, obviously, the look which at the time almost like a second empire style, Whereas this one's a perfect head.
Yeah. I mean, I think in looking at the two schemes, I do prefer the simpler house. I mean, I think even though that does represent a sort of larger encroachment than your second iteration, and part of us approving this is to see what the alternative is. I mean, generally we try to look at what a conforming alternative is. In this case, there is no conforming alternative, but this is a and this is the kind of step that we sort of need to take to then sort of intelligently analyze this. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I'm okay with the larger original encroachment of the sky exposure plane if that works. I mean, I wanted to understand from an internals perspective if it was a better house for the owners, if they were giving up too much.
You should know that we studied other alternatives, including ones that modify the front drastically, but then you have this kind of very odd setback on the right side, and it's silly. So, we're trying to do something pleasant for the neighborhood, and it still makes sense for the
I agree that House A is, the first house is a more simple approach. More fitting with the rest of the streetscape.
Right, the two comments I will make three are based on the slide that you presented comparing the existing volume with the proposed lines. It shows that really you are improving a non-conforming condition. Right, so on those grounds, I will tell you that I will look favorable for the encroachment of the sky exposure. That said, I kind of like better the house on Devon Street, and that's why I took it from Michael when he said that he thought that he would be improving by doing the Devon Street or Maple Street look or articulation or the architectural. I understand we are not in architectural wonderland, but maybe the same care that you put on the design of the Wall Street, if it's applied to this house on Maple Street, I think I will be okay to grant you the waiver. That's basically it. And I, concurring with the rest that the simple massing will benefit the house. I don't know if I made myself clear. I think that, I don't know, for some reason this house, if improves on what's existing, for sure, still needs a little, the same care that you put on the Wall Street.
That's, we'll address some of that advice. At this moment, I think we're really just looking for
The sky exposure plan.
sky exposure plan
Yes.
waiver.
On those grounds, I will, yes,
And-
I will grant you.
Okay.
So are we, Ed, are we not approving this application? It's still for the
No,
planning
you
board?
are writing a letter or recommendation to the planning board that you would grant them a sky exposure plane break so that they can go ahead with their approval.
Okay, well, we'll do so, but I'll just state for the record that, that the board is comfortable with this sky exposure plane encroachment, including the first diagram that you presented, which is a slightly greater encroachment without the shift at the back, if that leads to a more sort of integrated design and a better relationship with the neighbors.
Thank you all.
Thank you. No action to be taken yet?
Correct.
All right, thanks. 29 Osceola Avenue, please.
Evening. Doug Austrian, I'm here as a contract MD for 29 Osceola. Just to bring you up to date, I want to come back to you as another pre-submission conference because, you know, 5 months have gone through the planning board, we finally got the site plan approval for it. And, you know, listening to what the planning board was saying, and, you know, they did a couple of site visits, and listening to what this board is saying today, and listening to what the neighbors said, I want to do what's best for everybody in the community. So what we've done was, you know, we redesigned the house from the original one that I brought to you, I don't know, many months ago. This one, which is sort of in garbage, I just brought it just to bring it. The site. So the new house that we're bringing to you is really a basic colonial, the dormers, the grand entrance, and, you know, I brought it in also, and I don't really know what you're gonna want to see. On this property, there were covenants and restrictions, probably in the neighborhood of 10, and one that seems to still be a concern of the neighbors is having garage doors exposed to the north exposure. That's in the covenants and restrictions, which were on the deed for the subdivision. So in any event, you know, we created a house, and, you know, after we had the planning board site plan approval, the next few days we were meeting at the Lockworth's house, invited all the neighbors to come, and I listened to all of the comments, and I included quite a few of them into the drawings, and some of them, quite frankly, I didn't. But you have the submission, you had asked me to do streetscape, I think it was, it was, asking for a streetscape showing the existing houses, the locations, and at all the houses that are on the block. I mean, you have everything there, but the real reason why I'm here tonight is because I'm just sort of a little humbled by the board and by the neighbors, because what ultimately happens is a contract MD. In order for me to move forward on this project, I have to, you know, align all my numbers and make sure everything is going to work. And the point I'm at right now is that I've gotten site plan approval for a house that is 5,300 square feet with garage. You were presented originally a skewed statistical analysis of the neighborhood by one of the neighbors, and it was sort of like, if you look at it realistically, it was like Donald Trump saying that he had the most people at his inauguration. If you take the houses that are just on Osceola,
I mean, these are the houses. I mean, the house that I have has 327 square foot of frontage on it. All the houses on Osceola, nobody comes close. True, it's a smaller lot, but I think it was the consensus of the planning board. What happened was that because the backyard is the second fairway of the Ardsley Country Club, that there's no perception of the real lot. I mean, the lot is, endless. That's why, the price tag on the lot is what it is today. So really, what I'm just here for today is just to sort of get a nod from you that we're not going to mess with the footprint of the house. Originally, before the subdivision was done, based on the municipal codes, you could build over a 7,000 square foot house here. This conforms to every zoning code in the village of Duxbury, complies with the sky plane exposure, setbacks, everything. People would like to see a smaller house, I guess, in the neighborhood, but, unfortunately, if I'm gonna buy it, this is the size house I'm gonna build. It's, if you look at the square footage of all the existing houses, we're right in line with it. I mean, the garage is smaller than a lot of them, very few of them. So for the neighborhood, and I know it's a grand neighborhood in Duxbury, and, I think we're in full, I don't know what it is.
Would you make this larger, please?
I don't know how I would do it.
On the upper right, next to the X, there's a square. Click on that.
You have
Thank
a
you.
copy of this?
Yes, but screen.
I swear I didn't do it.
Thank you.
Which of these is the original house?
The original house of the Lockharts?
The 25 Osceola? I forget the number.
25 Osceola
I
is
walked
the
by
Lockhart
there,
house.
so,
Right. And now the new address for the subdivided lot is 29.
29. I figured that out because there was no number on there, and I said, this gotta be it, when I walked by.
I don't know how it works exactly.
You happen to know the lot coverage of these houses?
Honestly, 25 Osceola looks a lot bigger than 4286.
Well, this analysis was done by my engineer, and he took these off of the,
Assessor's card or something?
I don't know, something that doesn't have GIS or
42,
something.
yeah, it looks like a much bigger house, but I
Well,
wouldn't know.
that could have been prior to his addition, because he put on the breezeway.
The garage and the
garages stuff.
garage.
So if anything, it being bigger would be more credence to my thoughts, because it would be a bigger house, and I'm building a smaller house next to the big house.
Except that they have a much larger property, I think.
Well, by acreage, yes, but by perception, no, they don't. Because part of what the Ardsley Country Club has asked me to do was all of the foliage between this lot, what's called 29 Osceola, and the fairway. They would like Mr. Lockhart to remove the trees to open up the air breeziness to the second tee box. They would like him to cut down all the trees, and they've asked him to do so at his expense. And they've asked me to incorporate in my plan, removing it too, and removing all the scrub that's between them.
There's only scrub there. I didn't see any trees.
No, there's a lot of mature trees there.
Nothing shown, there's a couple on this side. There's nothing on the back side. There's nothing on the,
Give me a second.
which is this side.
Right here. This is what we're talking about. This is the backyard.
Yeah, this is the back, and there was just all scrub here.
Well, these are trees right here. And I think that, I'm not exactly sure on the survey in front of me, but I think like the property line roughly runs here. The new property line of the subdivision. So they would like to see Mr. Lockhart take out a fair amount of these trees and for you to take.
But that's not your property, right?
It's ours, the country club's property.
Right, but they want you to do that.
They asked, I don't know, naturally for me as a developer, I'd like to open it up a little bit to make it fair.
The view.
Okay, I got it.
It's a fabulous
here-
view, though.
Here's I don't know that we're going to guarantee you any square footage without, we're gonna assess the whole house at once. I don't think that your square footage is grossly incongruent with the square footages of the neighbors. However, it is the most aggressive square footage calculation per the lot coverage. not the street frontage, just the lot coverage. And I get the street frontage question, and I think we take that into account, it's important too. I think that the most important component of all this is the real architectural integrity to the house. And I think that that's going to be the thing that we're most interested in, and the thing that we may be willing to overlook a certain sort of more aggressive approach to lot coverage if you've got a real great house design. And I think in order to do that, the first thing you need is a really good architect to come in and help you turn, you know, what is now an improvement from the previous iteration into something much, much better. And I think that we'd all, ourselves, the neighbors, if there are neighbors here, the club, everyone would be happy to work with you to, you know, to make this a viable development project. So that's what I say. I know that there are probably neighbors here today. If there are, we'd like to hear from you. If you would kindly be brief for the sake of everyone, we'd all appreciate that.
I had a comment to make, yeah.
Please go.
Since I happen to walk this property, I also think that your rear elevation is not an accurate depiction of what's really there. None of those retaining walls are shown. It's a much more taller, and I think needs to be depicted the way it's supposed to be. These retaining walls, there's like an 11-foot, 12-foot difference from here to here, to the patio, yeah.
There are two retaining walls on the site.
Correct.
They're not on the architectural plan, but they are on the site.
But they should be shown, because,
Well, again, you know, this is just to come to you, this is the beginning of the journey. That's gonna be, you know, the architectural conception of the house, and, you know, the size and footprint that Bill was mainly dealt with, the planning board, which we accomplished in 5 months, 6 months, and we did that, and, you know, although these drawings might be a little bit incomplete, like you're saying, and not having the walls depicted on them, you know, more or less what wasn't really coming here for the full presentation of it.
I think that I agree with Michael's representation. The site is very particular and interesting, and the same way that you trying to match the context in terms of size and lot coverage.
sorry.
The same way that you're trying to match the context that you're in. Nature is a context, there are wonderful houses in the area. Try to come up with a wonderful proposal, architecturally speaking, and from my side, you won't have an opposition as long as it's a decent looking size. I take this as a massing study. I don't see yet an architectural proposal or a proposal with architectural integrity at this stage. So I think we analyze this application when it's due to be analyzed.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Does anybody want to say anything?
Please.
I take this on the meantime. Sure.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. I'm Pete Hoffman from representing the Country Club and a number of neighbors. You know, this is a great neighborhood. There are many attractive houses and some spectacular houses in this neighborhood. Because of the restrictions on the deed, this house is set farther forward to the street than most houses in the neighborhood, and as a result, can really be seen from all 4 sides. The neighbors across the street do have concerns about the size of the club, size of the house. It is permitted by code, but you know, we think that a good architect can minimize the visual effect of the size. It can deflect from some of the appearance of the garage, which of course has to be on the side that it is, but it doesn't have to show off as much as a garage as it does. You know, Mr. Lockhart's own house, you know, doesn't look, it's a spectacular garage. You know, this may not meet those standards, but I appreciate your pushing for a good architect, because I think that's the best path for this project.
Just to make a quick comment, good architecture is good to look at also. You don't have to hide it all.
Oh, yes. Great.
Thank you, no
Thank you.
action to be taken. 89 Beachdale, please. Yeah.
Good evening.
Brandon Zappi, Zappi Construction. We're here on behalf of our homeowners in regards to 89 Beachdale Road, which is off of Judson, right where Judson and Beachdale intersect. We had originally come before you with this house that I have up on the projector now, which at your discretion asked us to revise with a more cohesive design. This was originally our rustic farmhouse design that they had asked us to incorporate some gambrel elements into. So since then, we've made a multitude of changes. This is our new proposed house. We actually hired a new architect to come in with a fresh set of eyes and kind of make a more cohesive design and, you know, bring it all together, especially on all 4 different elevations. Some of the changes that we've made, we slid over this gambrel to the left side as opposed to everything massing in the middle. We changed the roof pitches to make it more appealing. We had, added some nice trim around the windows. We framed off the front entry with these columns, make it more of a picture setting. We added these nice garage doors on there for the front entry garage. We added these gambrel eaves to both side elevations. We changed the rear, this roof over the back bump out into a shed roof as opposed to a double hipped roof, which kind of goes more along the lines with this gambrel style home. And we're here looking for your comments and hopefully approval.
I'll start with the gambrel roof. I still, and Dipti actually brought a good example and also some, a document with some rules of thumb for gambrel roof angles. And I think that, there's an element of this, there's still an element of this applied nature, right? The gambrel roof really needs to run through the house, right? It forms the main roof structure, and then when you're adding pieces on, I think you're adding a slightly different, a different sort of component. It's not that you can't get the volume that you need. It's just that I think the way in which these appear to be kind of foreignly applied to the larger roof structure is still needs some work. And I think you should take a look at these, or your draftsman should have a look at the, kind of tried and true angles for gambrel roofs. I think the second component is the material, right? I think if you're building, a large, ambitious house in a neighborhood where there are other large, ambitious houses, vinyl is not congruent with those other homes. And so I think you should be looking at, at wood siding or cedar shakes, and not the vinyl stuff, because it just doesn't fit in with the neighborhood. I think I don't know if there's information about windows, but I think the front door, again, I'm not sure what's happening with the door, what it's made out of, what kind of door it is. I think, again, in a house like this, the entry and the front door needs to be, needs to really speak volumes, and I don't necessarily see that happening.
The only thing I would like to say is that this is clearly an improvement. This is clearly an improvement from what you brought last time. I think they're like, especially on the front elevation, it's better worked out. I think with the help of these images, you're gonna get close to something very pleasant to have. But still needs work, the angles, especially on the lower elevation, that it seems like out of proportion, that that big elevation needs, something is missing there, and I agree with Michael's comment. I think it's I think it's workable and it's gonna get there, but still needs a little tweak and work to get it right. In terms of materials, and I agree, of course, everybody likes the wood shingles. It's an issue of cost, but there are alternatives to vinyl siding. Maybe you should, look into a few alternatives and present it to us.
Well, at the last meeting, nobody really said anything about the vinyl siding, and the customers wanted maintenance for siding. So that was wood, not as an option.
Sorry, I couldn't understand what you said. What, can you repeat it?
Pardon me?
Can you say it again?
Yeah, I guess at the previous meeting I wasn't here, but I guess there was no discussion about the vinyl siding, but I don't know how many houses you guys have built. We've built a ton of houses a year, and people don't want the maintenance. So, it may look pretty and, at the neighbors, for them to look at, but at the same time, they're not paying for it. So this is on a dead-end street. We've addressed all your comments, and this house is not, it's not a spec house, it's a custom house that is sold. And we're trying to balance what the homeowners like, at the same time addressing your comments. So, like I said, we've addressed your comments. The front door is a fiberglass door. We do not build wood doors. Again, I don't know how many houses you build, but I've built hundreds of them, and wood doors are problems. So we don't put them in, they become warranty issues, so all our doors are fiberglass. So that's what the front door is. So we don't need them. What's that?
You listed steel.
That's a mistake, that's a fiberglass door. So, we're not here for drafting exercises, we've addressed your comments, and, it's like a moving target every time we come, we bring up something.
No, that's unfair. That's not true at all, actually. This is only the second time you've been here. You're building a big house. The first time you came, it had real issues, real problems, and so we brought those up.
I see stuff that's going up in house there, it looks like crap. Again, this is your opinion. You may like art that I don't like.
Yeah, except we are here tasked with, and what we asked for you to do was to use an architectural style and not a hodgepodge of many. So you've come back, you've addressed part of that. You still have proportions of the gambrel roof that are not in keeping with traditional gambrel roof proportions. So you have not addressed all of the issues we brought up, period. Now, it doesn't matter how many houses you build. if it doesn't, if that, you can't build the same one if it doesn't fit in the neighborhood where you're building this one, right? We're talking about this house, not all the other ones you built. I'm sure you're very good at building houses, but that's not the issue.
Okay, so let's get a little specific.
The other question, I'm addressing all of your comments. As far as doors go, if there's a covered area in front of a door, which there is, you have a porch, it's not directly exposed to rain and sun, wood doors do work. There are also alternatives to wood doors, the composite doors, which I don't love, but are certainly better than fiberglass or steel doors. And so again, I understand that you like to do things a certain way. That doesn't mean you can do them everywhere you go in the village. You work with the neighborhood, and that's part of what we're asking you to do, and you haven't done that yet. And so, it's a misrepresentation for you to stand there and tell me that that's what we've seen, that that's what we're seeing now, because we're not.
Telling you that that was not mentioned in the last week.
We didn't get to it,
Let's get specific as to
right?
what you want, and we'll address it. So pick
That's
your
what I'm
items
doing.
now. Okay.
Something I'd like to point out, this is the Dobbs Ferry code. It clearly shows the gambrel roof, so we're not talking out of turn. The gambrel goes all the way through the house. If you had someone draw this up, I don't know who drew this up, it does not reflect on your floor plans what's happening with the dormers versus what's happening with the gambrel, number one. And if you look, all you have to do is Google this. This is something I got from Google. It shows you the proportions of what a traditional gambrel is supposed to look like. It really does. There are strict proportions and strict geometry to what a gambrel looks like. This is not a gambrel. This is not a Dutch farmhouse. It's not a farmhouse look. This trim is applied on to a big gable. That doesn't make it a farmhouse or a gambrel. This is too large in proportion to consider trying to put something that's, not a gambrel.
Okay, so you want us to follow the guidelines that you have in your book for, I guess, the pictures of the gambrel roofs? Is that-
Would you like to see this? It gives you the exact proportions. And this is right off of Google. You can look at anywhere in Google and you'll find this. And look at the picture too.
Yeah.
We're not pulling this out of a hat. We don't want to make.
Yeah, the code references the Field Guide of American Houses, which is another resource. There are other architectural style
You can-
resources for this kind of thing.
Okay. So as far as what we did with the front porch, we lined the columns on both sides, I just wanted to tell that you made it okay with that. We centered the window above the front door. I think we added that little transom window. Yeah, we added some push boards. So you're more concerned with the pictures of the gambrel.
Pictures of the gambrel roof, and it should be running through the house. The drawings are not correctly drawn. It doesn't reflect anything of what's on the side. I don't see, this is just, that's all it is. It's just a,
I don't know.
I can't tell.
I can't hear you, what are you saying?
The side where you see the gambrel,
Right.
that is just sort
Basically,
of a
this is a
facade.
colonial, and we
It is
did that
only a
on the side.
facade. It doesn't run through. The gambrel doesn't run through, right?
No, it's not one.
Yep. So then, it's just stuck on. That doesn't make it a gambrel. It doesn't make it a farmhouse. If that's what you're looking for, your architect should be able to advise you with that.
So we maintain that, we would just go back to the colonial style.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you do a true gambrel with the photograph that you show,
Yeah, I gave it to, I'm sorry, Brent. And there's a photograph behind there.
And do you have, this is the,
This is what came in the.
yeah, the residential
Yeah,
design
the
guidelines. I
residential
mean,
design
there are
guidelines.
roof diagrams and residential design guidelines.
This is the
that
Dobbs
it's,
Ferry
the
code.
gambrel is a volume, it's a geometry that carries through. So it either does that, or if it's a different kind of house, then make it a different kind of, but be consistent about the style, and not as applied mold, right, as house geometry.
okay, so once we get these dimensions down, is there anything else that you want us
Yeah, you might want to consider hardy plank instead of vinyl. It just looks nicer. I'm not a fan of it, but at least it's much nicer looking than vinyl is. And it's not that much more money.
You don't know what you're talking about. Hardy plank's a lot more money.
Shiplap.
Yeah, it's a lot more money. It's a lot more money to buy, it's a lot more money to install.
It's a big house on a nice location, you know, you might want to consider that.
Well, it all comes down to economics. All right, somebody mentioned something about the windows?
No,
I don't, the group pattern on top.
I think that the 8/1 is fine. I don't have any, if it's the scale of them, the alignments are working. It's, those aren't, those, at least on the front facade, there's nothing up top here. Do you have the site plan? This is the back of the house. Right side.
Yeah.
You might want to break
I don't know what's going on.
these big spans of, on the left side and on the side elevations, with a window somewhere, a door, or like a window in the attic, something that gives more scale. Right, something that to break that scale, it's a big expanse. But in general terms, the windows are acceptable.
I think as a compromise for the front door, we could put sustainable fiberglass door.
Those ones called the, Marvin makes them, they're true style, I can't remember, it's something like that, but it's a fiberglass door, it's a composite door.
That's sustainable, yeah.
Yeah, it's a, but you know, from 15 feet away, it looks like mahogany.
And while you're at it, you know, the only other comment I'd want to make about the door is you might want to consider the right style for this style house, because again, this is very colonial, the door style is colonial. It doesn't go with the farmhouse style. You might want to consider more of a craftsman house, you know, which might be more, craftsman style might be more in keeping with this style.
Okay, that's it. I'll make those changes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to continue this to the next application, and next hearing, EIR seconds, unanimous. Thank you. 100 Main Street.
Ready? At Science Center from Gotham Design, new development here at 100 Main. Since the last time we were here, we've worked with the village and with the board to get the consultant on board. They're working on the assessment. We're hoping to have that at some point in the next couple of weeks. I don't see the real reason to go through everything until we have that. So just take one night to do everything. One question I wanted to ask is, at this point, because this is still a recommendation to the planning board, or to the board of trustees, do you want us to do a noticing on this for neighbors? Because we did have a lot of neighbors at the beginning, and often in this kind of point is when they complain.
That's an Ed question.
Yeah, so I think as soon as we come back after the referral.
So we're going to get, let me just talk through the sequence and you tell me, and we'll try to figure this out. We're going to receive a report from the Historical Perspectives, which is the consultant who suggested by the applicant. I had a phone interview. I thought the person was very highly qualified, more so than the person I had suggested. She, I believe, was awaiting a retainer, was going to contact me, and then we were going to walk the site together.
Submitted today.
It was submitted today, so I suppose I'll be hearing from her shortly. She and I will walk the site, I'll give her all the information that we have to date, she'll do her own analysis. When we get that, we'll let Ed know, I guess we'll all get that together, and we can schedule the next hearing for this board, at which point you should be noticing the neighbors, and then we will make our recommendation accordingly, based on her report and the agglomerated drawings and memos and other documents that we've received.
Sounds good. Well, you want me to resubmit these same drawings, because these are the same drawings from last year?
But these are different. What,
No, this was the one that we submitted.
This is probably from the
oh,
fall.
maybe I wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, just, if you want me to submit more copies, I can, but it just, you know.
No, if it's the same thing, please don't.
Unless, unless you're going to change anything, we will just keep this, but the notice is important, and we'll let Ed know when we've got that and we're ready to see if that should be short. And any action to be taken here?
Continue.
Continue this to the next hearing, yeah, your second, now. It's 15 Hickory Hill Drive.
My name is Jim Allen, I'm the architects representing 15 Hickory Hill Drive. We are here for legalization of the deck. We got zoning approval back in February for lot coverage, rear yard, and combined side yard. Essentially, we're just maintaining this deck. There's going to be some minor repairs to the deck. We have some photographs in the package. We just maintain the same color that's here now. We have some plank ups. The deck has to be replaced and some spindles on it.
Any comment?
Did you need zoning approval for this?
We got zoning.
You got zoning
Back in
approval.
February, yes.
Okay, that's for the existing non-conforming.
Existing, not-
Motion to approve this as submitted. Mayor seconds. Unanimous, thank you. 24 Bellwood Avenue, please.
Hi, David Johnson. We simply want to tear down and rebuild an existing deck that is falling apart and rotting. In addition, the top floor / attic space of the house, we would like to have made into a habitable master bedroom suite. We plan no changes to the exterior of the house, except for widening the 2 existing top floor windows. And basically the house is going to look exactly the same, except the deck is not going to be in danger of falling down. And top-
Are you altering the dormers?
No.
And you didn't provide a drawing for the change in the windows. Could you,
Oh, is that in the drawing?
is there a drawing?
Yeah, I think
Oh, there is?
there's these are the drawings?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know that it was an option to bring digital stuff into the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so used to,
The big drawings?
yeah.
I'm fine with the small.
Sorry, this is
No,
my
no
first time
problem.
using this, so.
But we don't have an elevation.
Yeah.
If we get a little closer.
Sorry, I should have brought a magnifying glass.
Why don't you tell us what you're doing with those 2 windows? You're,
Basically,
and we'll
we
use the
just wanted to-
photograph.
The top floor is going to be a master bedroom and bathroom and then a small office.
Just the windows. I just want to know, I want to know how the windows are going to be
Oh,
different.
the dormer windows, no, the side, the north, south sides of the house, that, the front of the house is facing east, has 2 little windows.
Oh, we don't have a picture of that.
So, yeah, I didn't take a picture of the side of the house. You want me to go
Well, I know what it is. It's just that when if you're doing an alteration to the exterior of the house,
Right.
it needs to be represented in some way that we can.
Visually, that picture, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that that was.
To simplify things, if
Yeah.
you're taking an existing window and you're widening it by 6 inches and you would like to take a photograph and draw on top of that, that would be fine. If you're doing something more extensive, you're putting in 2 instead of 1, we need a drawing, an elevation of the side of the house.
That was emailed.
All right.
That was,
That was emailed, a request for window and deck elevations.
okay. So that was emailed by you requested that, okay.
Basically, I wouldn't be opposed to approve this application, but we need more information. If you complete it next time, you don't have to resubmit, just submit the same.
No, you don't have to come back. You could resubmit it. I think well, there's a deck thing I want to talk about, but for the windows, submit the drawing. It sounds fairly straightforward, but we would like to see it.
An architectural drawing, or just a photograph of me?
Well, I think Ed had requested an elevation of that, which I think that he needs for his record. So why don't you provide an elevation for us, and that'll settle that question.
All right.
Now, the deck, you're replacing the deck or you're repairing it?
We're replacing it, it's rotting and falling.
Okay.
The previous owner had actually tried to fix it. And
Same color as
Yeah, it's-
Now, if you're replacing it,
Why don't you do wood?
why don't you do a nicer deck? Right? Do a wood deck. This railing, I mean, the railing, you have to put a nicer railing up.
Yeah, no, it's gonna have a vertical slats in the railings instead of this horizontal stuff. It's gonna look nicer. It's gonna be the same color. We're not, but the dimensions are staying the same, for cost and also just for its simple, simplicity of the variance.
Mhm.
Can you bring some pictures of what the deck is gonna look like the next time you come back?
Well, that's the thing, I think Ed had requested, so this is also something that we need drawn, if you're doing a different decks, you're doing different railing, which is a good
Sorry,
thing.
I wasn't aware that the railing would be of specific interest. I thought it was more just the dimensions that you guys were going with. But, okay. Got it. So elevation.
Personally, I think it's a lost opportunity to not do a nicer material on the deck.
So I said again?
I think it's a lost opportunity not to use some nicer material on the deck.
Yeah, okay. got
And
it.
I don't know that it's going to be a lot more costly to do so, but depends on your.
Sure, the cost meaning the footprint of the deck, I thought it was.
You're not altering the footprint.
It's gonna be a nicer looking.
You're not altering the structure.
I'll bring drawings to the next. Okay.
And if you're going to be using a wood or a composite wood, and you want to bring us.
Pressure treated, okay.
Okay, pressure treated, you put an opaque stain on it, it's a little, but you can.
We were gonna keep the colors the same, just because the front, just because the house already has a color scheme with the red, and it's brick red, and white going for it, so.
Which is a good one. And wood would not clash with that.
Okay.
I won't say anything else, I promise.
Understood.
Any other comments? Any neighbors? Motion to continue this to the next hearing. Dale seconds. Unanimous. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
49 Clinton.
Hi, I'm Craig Dunn. I'm supervisor of facilities for Master School. We're looking to install a weather mast antenna on our science building for purposes of science building, to teach science, weather, and put it out on the web station. It's on the front facade of our science building, which is within our quad, which I don't think we see from the street, behind the main building. So it's in our quad area.
You don't happen to have a site plan? We have it, okay, so can you, this is Morris Hall? Is that what we're?
Yes, it is. That is Morris Hall. That is, our main school, this would be Clinton Avenue, so the mass would be like where the 9 is in our quad area.
So it's on the, kind of the front of the building?
Yeah, it's on the front of the building.
And it is there a dimension on here?
Yeah, it's 10 foot high.
And it's on the roof or it's on the facade?
It's on the facade.
I don't know.
The Pittsburgh lender is taller,
Oh, yeah.
so you won't see it.
Be weather station for the town also, there'll be that everybody can get all the lightning for the area, and weather coming in, all of that.
Alarms.
Camera, the Hudson. they can-
Still rains on the day that I want to
Yeah.
Have a party?
have an outdoor party. Okay, good. Are there any neighbors here from, no?
Cool.
I think this is straightforward. Make a motion to approve this as submitted. Getting a second. Unanimous, thanks.
Thank you very much, Have a good night.
20 Birch Lane.
Hi, my name is Annabelle Roland. I work for Baldwin Franklin Architects, and I'm here to represent Rita and Larry Lieberman for their project of 20 Birch Lane. It's revisions to entry steps, and right now, I have to look at the drawing here, I'm sorry. So, right now, this is the existing conditions. So the work is just on the front steps, right there. We're keeping the retaining wall in the back. The steps are aesthetically not too pleasing, and they're also crumbling. They're in poor condition. So what we are proposing is to do this. And how do we do this?
Plus.
So you can tell.
Make it,
Work on the
put,
back.
click that button again, make it large, and hit Control.
Click on the
Yes,
square?
yeah, click, and now hit Control minus.
I can't hear you.
Control minus, or the minus sign in the middle at the top.
Oh.
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
It's
so,
at the bottom. There you go. We have the drawing, we, in
Okay.
front of us, that's fine.
all right, so this is what, still want to make it smaller. Will that, this work?
Control minus on the keyboard.
And, did this do it?
That did it. You do it again.
There, thank you. All right, so this is what we're proposing. And we are adding 4-inch veneer on the existing curved retaining wall and on all the walls. So, and the material is this, which actually matches an existing retaining wall right next to it at the neighbor's house. So this is the material. And this is this is 1-inch veneer instead of 4-inch, but this is the color range. So,
You're matching the rail detail of the stair adjacent in the photograph of existing.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
There's an existing photograph that you showed earlier. You're matching the rail detail of that stair to this new stair.
Oh, the railing, yes. So the railing, the photo is on. Okay, so I'm sorry, I really do not work on this, I don't know how to rotate this on here. This is the existing railing on the west side of the house, and we're matching that.
And in this very nicely done sketch, previous image we were looking at, it appears as though you're representing some stone material which
That's
will
the
clad. So this is in addition to the retaining wall veneer, you're also adding stone onto this stair. Okay, I think we have a good picture of what you're intending to do, and I think it's very welcome. It's very nicely done and thought through. So I don't know that there's anyone who
No,
would
it's
pose
really a
such
nice, it's a very nice sketch.
Are there any neighbors here? No? No neighbors with a lot of firewood? Okay, it looks great. I make a motion that we approve this as submitted.
Second it.
Yeah, your seconds, unanimous. Thank you. 23 Ogden Avenue, please. Well, if you would take the microphone.
Hi, good evening. Vicky Kennedy, 23 Ogden Avenue. Application to replace an existing fence on the exact same location with vinyl fence. I have samples.
At the front of the house, I can't tell if these photos, the front of the house, you're gonna have the two gates, is that right,
Yeah.
or one?
Yeah.
It's the exact same height.
Everything, exactly same. It's just this little.
Yeah. I know. Okay.
The same company
That makes everyone's
right?
same
No,
company.
it's you like did the wood and now they're doing the vinyl.
Yeah.
So everything is.
Any questions, comments? Looks good. Motion
luck.
to approve?
Second.
Approved. Good luck.
Unanimous, thanks. 218 Ahrb Avenue.
Hi, my name is Shiva Baker, and I'm a tenant at 218 Ashford Avenue. The visuals I have are exactly what you have, so we can put on this one.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. So I just want to put on the sign, and I have a swatch of the interior of the sign, very small. I'm sure you-
Okay.
It's this one, and it matches the color of the awnings in the adjacent building. Burgundy.
Burgundy.
Yes.
So you have a bakery?
I mostly do, but I also do, come on, there's delicious ones in
I will do that, yeah.
You can stop by.
How, that my only comment is that the sign is sort of falling right on this folded metal
There's an existing
flashing,
sign
I
there.
think that's what that is. There's an existing sign
There's
there?
an existing sign, and so this is exactly where it is now,
Okay,
and I'm just gonna replace what's there.
so there's a mounting bracket already there? I mean, it looks like a difficult place to hang a sign, given, as opposed to another
I can't
9
tell you-
inches up.
Yeah, I can't tell you how it's attached, but it is attached.
Would it
It's
be,
blank
is it?
right now.
No, but what he's saying.
What I'm saying is if you took it and just put it on this part of the house,
Right.
or this part of the building, instead of kind of bridging between the two, I think it would stand out a little better, and it would, it would look a little bit more harmonious.
That's what's existing,
It's
right?
just the location.
Right, so
Yeah.
this is what.
This is the
Yeah,
existing.
this is what is existing.
Oh, there's already,
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly like that.
Actually there. I think he's intending to just
It's
paint
the
over
exact
it.
same size and everything. I see it, I didn't realize.
I think I'm more concerned about the lighting that's underneath the awning and whether the new awnings will clear the lighting fixtures that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
concerned about that myself.
That's true, too.
The old awnings that were there, so right now there are no awnings you can see in existence, but the old awnings that were there were underneath the lights. So I have confidence that we did it the same way. Do
Yeah,
need to
I think there's a
get something
bracket.
designed for that?
It comes out on a bracket. You can't see it, but it looks like there's a bracket there, right? The lights come out,
Yeah, it's
pop out a
material.
little bit.
Yeah. Do I need to submit something to?
No, I mean, it doesn't work. You've got to redo the lighting, then maybe.
No, I see that you have in the corner this bracket. Are you gonna use it for anything?
There's a light box there where they like actually turned the pizza sign around and it still says pizza. It's not pizza.
No, but I'm saying, you know.
Yeah, you can hang a sign.
Right, so I think that,
That will be nicely visible when you come down or
oh, you
outside.
wanna add a banner
No,
there?
I'm
No, we're
suggesting.
We're suggesting
Can I do
it.
that?
We're suggesting it.
You
That's
absolutely
great, I
can.
would love to do that, thank you.
But not a light box.
But
No,
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 the
no,
light
no,
box is
but
on the
just a
side,
banner.
that's gonna come off because it's.
Just a banner.
ugly.
A banner, same color.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What's arcade?
I'm okay.
So, so I think I would look into this, bringing this up.
Okay,
I think it'll help.
okay. Should I talk about that and I have to resubmit?
I'm okay with the awnings, we're okay with the size, we're okay with the lettering, the color, everything is fine. If you wanna add that, what are they called, what is that called, the banner sign? Well, you see there's a bracket here, Ed, that's in place for, there probably used to be a sign when it was a pizzeria. Pendant sign. If you wanna add a pendant sign, you would just add that to your mix and,
Yeah.
have the sign company can just, photo montage this on there and you
Yeah,
can
the
submit
only
that
thing-
and
The
you
only
can.
thing that they will say is, let's see what, if
There
there's
could
any
be some damage
damage
underneath.
that is hiding, that, before you take it out, see what's behind, to make sure that it's not.
Yeah, my suspicion is that it's, it
It's a
would have to be
condition
fixed
that
after.
may have to be fixed. Nothing.
Sure, I think it'll work better. If it can't work, we're not opposed to this solution. It's just a recommendation that it will get you better visibility.
We're happy that you're doing this.
Good luck.
So I'm going to continue this to the
Okay.
next meeting. Fortunately for you, you move up the list,
Awesome.
so you won't have to wait here.
Okay,
That's
thanks
all.
a lot.
A motion to continue this to the next hearing? Second.
Second.
Mayor seconds. Unanimous, thank you. 51 Belvin.
Could I put this story forward?
Sure. Please.
Okay. We good?
Are we doing anything to orient it?
You can orient it over here, I suppose. I mean, we've had a look. I mean, if you want to reference the photos in your presentation, then it might be better actually, because the camera pick it up if it's over here,
Right here was good.
right over.
issue with our garage. Apparently there was a problem with the placement of the gable. Facing the, when it was originally submitted, I was out of town, and the gable was supposed to be facing the house, but it was submitted so it was facing the alleyway. But we were trying to mimic the peak of the front of the house, so it kind of mirrored the front of the house in the back of the house. When you looked on at the house, you could see the peak of the zone situation, the circular window at the top, in an effort to maintain the whole historical effort that's being made on the building, which is really a wonderful thing. So we, really go out of our way to stay in tune with that, and somehow the gable got turned around. And Neil submitted a revision, thinking that with the revision, straightening that problem out, that we'd be able to build the garage like, the same as the front of the house, looking out over the street. And after we built it, there were some objections raised toward what we had done, and we're just trying to work it out.
Can you
This
please
is-
state your name for the record?
My name's Mark Costello.
Thank you.
This is the house, the front, facing north. This is the back. You know, we added a deck. This faces a lawn, an expanse of probably 100 feet. This is the garage. The gable.
As seen from the back of the house.
faces the lawn.
Yeah.
Faces the back of the house. This is the front. The alley side. The alley side. Now this faces North Lane. Are you familiar
Yeah.
with North Lane? Single lane, dirt road. You
And this is
look-
the last stop on.
Yes. This is a dead end.
Yeah.
Here, it just stops.
Well, because the last house is set back, is it?
Right, last house is brick,
Yeah.
great big solid block of brick, which faces Walker.
Yeah.
Over the golf course, right? These are representative both sides of North Lane of the architecture of the garage that we see walking up and down North Lane. Some have gables. Some have a standard roof. Some don't have any roof. They simply stop, and that's the garage door. What we have done is, like this house next to our property, we've oriented the gable to mirror the house itself and left the garage doors facing North Lane. What we want to do is verify with you that the orientation of the garage meets with your approval.
So the difference between the approved drawings and this is that it's rotated 90 degrees.
The gable's on, originally
Just
the
to-
submission would have the gable on the other side, and then we put in a revision because that was a mistake.
Okay. So the gable on the other side, meaning the left or right side here, or the garage?
Facing the alley,
Oh,
above
so
the
it was
garage,
flipped.
right.
Okay.
We also wanted to reduce the mass. The gable adds a great deal of mass. So it'd be more imposing on the houses behind it.
Do you have any more photos in the presentation? Oh, there. Garage?
This
No.
By the way, it is what the garage door faces currently. This is across North Lane.
I think Sonia sent in a letter encouraging us to do it the way we did it, because she's spearheading this whole historical effort to maintain the street and keep.
Yeah, we did get a letter of support from, I guess she's immediately next door.
Right, this is her house. Right, that's her garage. That has the same gable
I
as the
see.
one that we
Okay.
proposed.
Are, are there neighbors? Yes?
Yes, here, can I ask,
Okay, would you take the microphone, state your name, please?
Sure. I'd like to ask, is it facing the
Can you
way-
state your name and your address?
Sorry, my name is Douglas Sanders, thank you for hearing me. I have the house at 55 Belden, also known as One Walker Place, right next to this oversized garage. And can you tell me, is it facing now the way that you wanted it to face?
Yes.
Okay. Because it didn't agree with the plans that you had originally.
That was it. It was a revision, right?
Right, right. So it's, okay, I'm just surprised sometimes it seems that builders change things after they get approval, and that's a little concerning. But, okay, I'll let you continue. Thank you.
We are very sensitive to that point because we spend a lot of time reviewing the applications and sometimes a lot of time negotiating the compromise between homeowners' needs and the villages or ours, and then when that happens, it's a bit frustrating. I think in this case, it's a better architectural solution. So I'm more favorable towards accepting it than I would be if it were a compromise on quality or cost at the expense of the neighbors.
Thank you. Well, we'd like to comment as well after you finish, of course. But it seemed odd to us to see an amendment saying that we're going to have the garage door facing the north when the original plan had the garage door facing the north, so it just didn't go the way you had expected for the amendment.
Well, the garage door was always facing the north.
The garage door.
The garage door, it was the gable above the garage that was switched.
Could I
That was, it was a mistake.
clarify this a little bit?
Yeah, please.
So you approved it with the gable facing the lane, the alley. There was a resubmission with, after that, that was put in the folder by my secretary that shows the gable on the other side. But there was no ballooning, there was no request of amendment to me, so it went unnoticed. So when there was some comments from neighbors who were out of town, or so when this was reviewed, they thought it was too big or whatever, we went out to look at it and said, oh, the gable doesn't match the approved drawing. So that's why we're here, to amend that. The notice that went out for this amendment mistakenly said that they're reapproving the garage door on the lane, but that wasn't the case. But everybody who was concerned knew what the amendment was. So
Okay.
somebody miswrote.
Okay. It's understood. I think just for simplicity's sake and for everyone's, if you make a change, even if it's for the better, an obvious solution that you should have picked up, just you should cloud that when it's resubmitted to the building department, because we keep running into similar problems.
A lesson learned.
Just to a couple of comments. First is, just as a fact, the oversized garage, what you call oversized, meets the code standards. So that means in terms of zoning, this is allowed as per code. Actually, the proposed and the requires are, he's well under what's allowed, including the ridge height.
Yes.
So that's
There's a difference between the spirit of the law and the letter of the law.
right. And this and the massing, it's been approved. Let's say that flipping or not flipping, the massing of the garage hasn't changed dramatically, even at all. The only comments that I will make is there is side, front, and rear elevations that they don't match what's built in the plans. So there is a drawing that shows a lot of details that are not existing on the build. I don't know what you plan to do. There's a cupola that it says optional. Might not happen, yes, might happen. So why don't we talk about the documents that we are reviewing now in terms of materials, in terms of finishes that we are guessing at this point.
Well, after there was, little difference over the garage itself, I thought adding the cupola would have made it even stand out more. I thought it was an attractive.
We don't need the cupola. I'm just saying that in the drawings show cupolas and actually the pitch on the elevations don't match. These are totally different windows that they once built. So there are actually no records of what is built in terms of the 4 elevations. So for starters, we need an updated set of drawings that reflects what's been built. And then we need to start reviewing what's been built as an as-built, but there is a sequence of events that whatever is built is a kind of surprise to us because we never saw it.
Which is a good point because of the narrowness now that I see of the alleyway itself.
The what again?
The narrowness of the alleyway, access into the garage is much better if you have a single larger door.
I don't oppose to the changes. I'm just saying that there is no documentation showing what's been built. So it's been built without approvals per se. The only thing that it's been built, and according to it's the massing and the square, which is 22 by 22 square. That's it. But we need materials called out properly, windows types called out properly, details, dormers, anything that is happening properly documented for us to review. So far, this is a cookie cutter come from a book that it has nothing to do with what's been there.
It's all, it's same dimensions as the original proposal.
But we are reviewing materials. We're reviewing details.
Same cedar siding that we used on the house itself.
Fair. So present me a drawing that says cedar siding too much. There is no drawing.
You don't have that information.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
The drawings don't match at all.
Yeah, so this is
The
not, this is a.
photograph of the
yeah,
object
photograph.
looks better than the drawings look,
Thank you.
but it's not documented. So I agree with you here, it's totally different than what's in the set that you submitted.
So just for proper procedure, we need a depiction, and it will be would have been nice to be able to assess materials, details, windows before you build it. So I will request to have proper documentation and then bring it up to the board for review. That's my suggestion.
My question is, can we do that documentation of materials and windows and whatnot, and garage doors? I mean, can we finish it with a single garage door? Do you want 2 garage doors? I mean, there's a charm aspect to 2 garage doors, but there's a practical aspect to having one larger door to be able to pull in a narrow, pull in and out in a narrow alley. You measure that as being functional as well as attractive.
So what you're saying now is it's one main door?
So instead of,
2 doors.
you see these 2 doors, it's just sort of one big garage.
Yeah, it depends on how it's designed. You have to show me how you plan to design
Well,
it.
the design that we submitted has the 2 single doors.
So which one do you prefer to do?
We'll put this, I don't mind, you know.
But we are guessing. We need a drawing.
But those are on the drawing.
So you want to build this?
Yeah, we'll build that. If that's okay with you guys.
This is okay with me.
That's okay, but I mean, I guess a single door can work too. It sounded to me like the single door was your preference because
Yeah, but
there's a sort of ease of function.
double doors that are more attractive in terms of period.
Yeah, they are.
Honestly, no one
choose.
can see the garage, though.
Well, I don't know, we have one neighbor that potentially looks right at it. Yeah, I don't think the neighbor on
At least not the
Sherman,
doors.
looks at it.
Can you pick up the microphone if you don't mind? Sorry, thank you.
Excuse me. My name is Charlotte Pope, and I own 44 Sherman Avenue, which backs onto North Lane, which is one of the few private lanes, as you know, in Dobbs Ferry, to which the houses abutting it have right of way to the middle of the lane. And the garage that has been built is set back from that lane 12 feet. The main complaint about the garage is that it doesn't blend with the neighborhood. It is very large for this piece of land. As you may be aware, that's an extremely narrow piece of land that the house is built on. And before I begin, I'd like to say that everybody, including myself and my neighbor, appreciate the very fine job that Mark Casella has done on the restoration of the little Victorian house. It's very attractive. But the garage, I wish we could say the same thing. It is too large. It does not conform to the photograph, as I understood it from meeting with Ed Randall, what was submitted as the plan of the garage as a photograph of a Victorian garage, which looked charming if it was going to be in the right proportion. The garage that's been built is 22 feet square, and the thought you have been discussing the likelihood of a single garage door that would lift and fall on this opening seems to me a little amazing. And well, if it were two doors, that would conform to the photograph that was flashed to me. The other thing that disturbs me, because I have the house abutting from the Sherman Avenue side, is that I have two cars, a one-car garage, and have for years been parking my second car on the lane, which Mark has referred to as a narrow lane. It's a lane, of course, that we have right of way to the middle of. And my concern about their 12-foot setback, if you have two-door garage, is that you have a very cramped area to pull a car out and back it, especially if my car is parked. So the likelihood of an accident seems to be rather possible. But
when you guys are finished, we have some photographs we'd like to
yes,
for the board that show the impact on our house.
and I'd like after Dottie has gone through and shown you some of the photographs, I would like to say that I am astonished. I was exposed to the photograph that was on the plan that Ed Van showed me, to see the size of the dormer that was actually built versus the plan that was approved. This dormer is very large, as you see. It extends to the full height of the garage ridge, which is 19 feet, which is higher than the garage ridge for any garage on North Lane. So the building is very noticeable as being out of place for the area. At least it seems that way to me. And I have some dimensions which are taken of the nearest garages that are in use to this construction, which have setbacks that are least 12, at least 16 feet, and have ridge extensions that are only 16 feet versus the 19 feet that have been put on this particular garage. I'm sorry, I'm sort of going over some of the details of this, which can be put in more perspective by what Doug has to present.
Can I respond to Charlotte's contract?
Please.
Sure.
We certainly didn't want to do anything to upset anybody, but the restriction was to be under 20 feet and to be 5 feet back from the property line. We're 12 feet back from the property line and we're under 20 feet. And I thought that I was complying with what's set forth.
Which, by the way, that's what I said. By the way, in the drawings, Neil says 8 feet, and it should be corrected to 12 feet, if correct. Right, so again, we understand that this is building as of right. And
in terms of the parking of the car in the middle of the lane, if anybody else in the lane parked their car in the middle of the lane, no one else can get by a car that's being parked in the middle of the lane. Charlotte has been afforded that opportunity because she's at the end of the lane, and nobody was using that garage space until the garage was built. And she's lovely, and I don't want to tell her where to park, but she would pull it up a little further, and it wouldn't be in front of the garage, or she could park in front of her garage, and everybody would be happy. I'm trying to bend over backwards to be compliant.
I think it's not our purview where they park the car. It's between you guys.
Exactly, and that is a long story, but unfortunately, I was away in my home in Maine on August 11th when the plan was approved, and didn't know anything about this or realize what was going on until it went up. And the use of the lane was being completely overtaken by Mark for a full year with the existence of 16 trailer-sized dumpsters, which were put there to handle some of the stuff that Mark had taken out of the little Victorian in order to put it in shape. And it, not once in the year that Mark was using the lane and blocking the right of way was I ever asked if it were convenient for me or really informed of the process that Mark had to go through in order to put the house in condition, which, as I said, is beautifully done. But,
Well, now that that's past us, I think we should move to the next step, which I think you had some photographs that you wanted to share so that we could come to some conclusion about this. Thank you.
Hello, yes, my name is Douglas Sanders. I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to comment on this construction. Basically, we feel that it is way too big and it really obstructs our properties, our property value, our privacy, and our enjoyment.
But I this is an important distinction. I'm looking at the approved plans, and it is not, what we're looking at as built is not any larger than the approved plans.
It is built, yes. And, but neither Charlotte nor I were noticed, and we are.
That's not true, actually. You were noticed, but you were away, and that's unfortunate, but you were properly and legally noticed.
Well, if, what I'm saying is we didn't receive notice that this would happen, we didn't know in advance. So perhaps, I mean, let me just, if I may, show you, this is my, what I see now out of my dining room window. It is this oversized house. It is really the size of a guest house. You can call it a garage, but it's or you can call it 1.5 stories, but it's equal to our 2-story windows. It's a very kind of a, it's 19 feet tall. It's a 10-foot storage room on top of a 9-foot garage. It's like the start of a crime show or something. You see this window of a storage room, like CSI Dobbs Ferry or something. The storage room gave them a perfect vantage point to look at the bedroom windows. It's ridiculous that this storage room would be as high as our bedroom. And here is the stop work order. But you can see also there's these shadows on the side of the house that are created where we used to have sunlight. We no longer, of course, have that. Everything seems to have been taken away from us, and I can't help but think that, you know, it's really the intent of the regulations rather than the letter of the regulations. Sure, you can build as high as you can go up 20 feet, but if you have, and it strikes me as the difference between a neighbor and a developer. A developer comes in and wants to make as much profit as he possibly can and then move out as quickly as he can. But a neighbor would never build a garage like this. It's true, Mr. Casello has done a wonderful job of restoring the house, and he's been a good neighbor in most regards, but he's blocking every single one of our 5 western-facing windows. It seems absurd that this would have been approved. You know, we have, let's see if I have this here. You can see how high it is next to our windows over here. You see Stephen Tilley. Here it is. This is the garage from Charlotte Folks' yard. You can see that it's kind of looming over like it's taking over or something. Here's a letter I can give you from Stephen Tilley, local architect, who suggested that the Architectural and Historical Review Board, forgive me gentlemen, but suggested that they should in the future insist on drawings of all adjoining buildings as well as elevations showing height relationships, and at least one member of the board should stand in the actual location of the proposed buildings so he or she can report on potential impacts. This is a shame, is how he ended his letter, and it's absolutely how we feel that it is a shame. It has seriously impacted our property values in a very negative way, and you know, I respect the work that the Ahrb does, but I think this may have escaped you. I heard in reviewing the August 22nd tape on the website, because I became very interested in it when this garage went up and I hadn't been noticed. I saw that one of the board members said that he drove past the location, but we would hope that in the future people step out of the car and store paint cans and garden hoses shouldn't take precedence over a living space. I would ask that there be a restrictive covenant against residential purposes for this space because it really is the size of a guest house.
We don't need that, that's in the code already.
It's in the code already?
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, well.
Thank you.
I'm also a neighbor, and
Yes,
I would
please.
just like to ask Doug.
Could you come up and take the microphone, please?
No, I just want to say something.
Yes.
My name is Peggy Markey, and I live at 37 Belden. And the question I want to ask Doug is are you currently living at One Walker Place?
My aunt is living there, yeah, and we kept the house so that she could stay in the house where she grew up.
Exactly, but Doug is her nephew. You may not know this, but Doug is her nephew. And he is the only person looking after her, but I don't believe he actually lives in the house. I'm not complaining about that. I'm trying to point out to you how difficult it is for him to get notices to the house. It is completely legitimate that he probably did not receive the notice in August. And I would really ask you as humans to take seriously what Doug says, that he was not noticed properly. Okay? That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Continuing on that, our best guess is my aunt has Alzheimer's, and we have a home health aide taking care of her, and she has a habit of picking up letters and so forth, documents, and throwing them out, not really knowing what they are. So it is true that I wasn't noticed, and I just was like the angel of death looming over us on the west side of the house as it was constructed. It's a terrible thing. That's all I have to say. I think it's wrong that it was built.
So I will just,
Sorry, my name is Lisa Casella.
yes, please.
I'm Mark's wife. I just want to make a comment about the storage area. As Charlotte likes to refer to it, it is a little Victorian. And there's not a lot of space that we didn't use in the house for living space. And that really is a very functional space for storage. So I'd like you to consider that when you talk about the height of the garage.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think that we sympathize with you not having known that this was happening. There is a process. These processes are imperfect, but they are fair, and the rules were followed. And when we analyze the site plan and we analyze the context of the garage and the house and the neighborhood and the other garages along the lane, it did not seem incongruent with the house, the property, and the other garages. Now, I understand that now its proximity to, and it also met the letter of the setback zoning requirements and all, and that kind of. I realize now that it feels too aggressive for your dining room and bedrooms that face that garage. So, but I will say that we did issue an approval for that, and I cannot take that back. Now, what you can do, you can, if you want to ask Mark to reduce the roof, that's a separate issue. But I cannot take back an approval that we gave to this applicant for building this. Now, if the roof had been built taller than what was approved, we would have a different kind of conversation. But the dormer being on one side or the other is not a question of volume, scale, blocking of views or light that I think matter in this case. And I think, in fact, actually improve the condition of that particular property.
Well, if you're talking about it, improve the condition of 51 Belden, yes, perhaps.
Yes, I'm talking about the location of the roof, which is the only real thing that we're here to discuss, because
Right.
what was on the agenda, or what was on the approved plan, was this pitched, I mean, it's not a dormer, it's a secondary roof element. Right? That was on the opposite side, on the lane side. It's now facing the house side.
Right. For it to be on that side would actually be less
Actually,
efficient for our property. So
I'm sorry, the plan, this plan that we have is which, the approved or the revised?
That's their new
What's the new features? That's the revised. No, the big.
I know, but where's this roof hitting? Neil, may I ask you a question? Can I?
That's pretty far.
It doesn't match what's built,
Okay.
and that was Ian's point.
Can I show you? So what we have is, essentially, we have this, the blue line is what's
Yes.
built, and this is the,
Right.
and then there's this little round window here.
Mhm.
And this dimension, these dimensions have all been maintained. Got it. Thank you. I don't know, there are other, if there are other comments, I think we should hear.
No more to add.
No problem.
Dale?
Request is as built drawing.
Well, I think we need to know, I think we're,
well,
there was a question about the garage door, and the garage door, I think, in lieu of the kind of conversation that we were having with the owner of 41 Sherman, 44 Sherman, excuse me, I think that the two garage doors are a little more harmonious with what she will see from her garage and her back windows. The question of the overall roof height, I think, is, I cannot take that.
well, I understand what you're saying, believe me. I would ask, though, that, as Mr. Tilly has said, the architect, it makes sense for a member of the board, for something like this, to go out and stand on the site and see
I was
what
there.
the impact was.
I was there.
Well, thank you. What I saw on the tape of 8/22, August 22, when it was originally proposed, was somebody said that they drove past and not really got out.
We spent some time looking at this.
Okay.
At the
Well,
alleyway.
I'm surprised, though, honestly speaking, this, I'm not gonna go on forever because I see there are a lot of people here. But it must have been known that my windows would have been blocked, and it would seem like you wouldn't want to do that to a neighbor, to block all of the windows and to approve such a plan. It just seems odd.
One cannot underestimate the financial effect on Saunders' property. That particular lane running between Belden and Sherman is a community of rather old homes. Some of them go back to the early part of the 20th century. It's an ideal place for historic preservation, which of course is part of your mission to take place. And the Saunders property not only is, the house is old, but the land is old too, and highly desirable, very much so. The deleterious effect on the real estate values is what.
It's not that we don't take that into consideration, and in fact, our biggest concern at the time, and I was thinking of your two properties, was the scale of the rear dormer that was being added. And so because my thought about that, which was from looking from the street, is that the thing that would be most visible to you would be this new piece that was up high. And so we it's not that we weren't considerate of that. I think that this is an instance where we didn't foresee the impact on your house, and it didn't seem that it was as severe as you're describing.
Well, it's most understandable, especially being here tonight, which is the first time I've been before the board since 10 years ago. You approved dormers that I put on my house on Boulevard Sherman. But the amount of detail that you have to go through, as well as some of the emotional effects that the changes in property values and properties have on people, makes me appreciate very much what you do. And I can understand how, if you saw a picture, as I saw, that Mark showed me, of what the garage would look like. It looked like a delightful little Victorian cottage almost, that would be most suitable as a garage for 51 Belden.
But also the same scale as the one that's currently there, which I think is the important distinction. So the details, I agree, in the drawings that we have with this cupola element and some decorative molding, which are really, I think, they're fine, but they're not the question we're discussing tonight. The question is the massing.
Well, the mass, that is where it would have been helpful if prior to construction, prior to your approval, someone had come out and stood on the property. Unfortunately, that didn't take place. However, I must thank personally Mr. Rosenkrantz for spending time with me yesterday and going over and seeing the effect that the overpowering roof has on my property, and appreciating the size and the mass of the garage has on Mr. Saunders' property. It's the size and the mass that makes the place, the whole thing, out of context of the neighborhood. There isn't another garage on North Lane that has a two-story, it's a two-story structure, and that has room for a loft above the parking space. All of the roof ridges that I've been able to measure in the days before this are about 16 feet high at the most. And for the two-story garages, one that's very near to the 51 Belden Avenue is the width of the garage is 20 feet. The width of the garage that's been built at 51 is 22 feet. That may sound like a small amount, but it isn't for a very small piece of land that the garage is going on. And also this setback is important thing, not just because my car might be bumped into by a car coming out of the garage, but because it makes the garage sit better on the property and therefore look more consistent with the age of 51 Belden Avenue, which is, I don't know when it was built, but it's an old house and a charming house. And the garage that was built is very different, as I said before, from the picture that I saw that Ed Manley was kind enough to show me was on the plan. And I fully understand how the details of the construction could have, now that I see the amount of detail and work that you people have, could have fallen through the cracks. But that, as it stands now, we have a structure that, as far as I can see, the most improvement would be in lowering the.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I'm sorry, but we will not be
I know you
requesting that from the applicant because we've already issued an approval for that height.
I know.
So thank you. I mean, I wish there were some way that you could work it out, but amongst neighbors, but at this board, we are not going to reduce the roof height.
Thank you very much for listening and for giving me the pleasure or the ability to say it in person, because I haven't been able to have any kind of contact with Mark, and perhaps this is the most effective way to get the idea across. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So,
To be continued.
all right, with motion to continue this, the next hearing, we're going to receive some drawings from you with the updated elevation and garage door and but
Do we need to finish the garage and give you the drawings relative to what it looks like, what you saw in the pictures tonight? Put the doors on, Charlotte, one of the two single doors.
what will you be doing? The two
doors entering the garage, put the pad down on the floor of the garage. We were stopped in the middle of doing this, so the house is in contract. It'd be nice to finish it.
I understand. I guess our question is what do the doors look like? I mean, because in the sketch the drawing we have has a set of two. I'm drawn on top of this now.
You want solid doors? You
Well,
want
I don't.
wood doors, insulated doors?
What have you got here?
Windows?
Why don't you ask your architect?
Charlotte, what would you like in terms of doors in the back of the garage?
I mean, right now you have this. They look like two doors that open, but I can't tell. Yes. So if there are two doors, we want to see what the doors look like. Okay, I think in order to resolve this, you have to come back with the doors drawn, and we'll approve it, and the neighbors can opine at that time, because it doesn't seem as though a description from you at this meeting is sufficient to cover that at this point.
Yeah,
Put the pad at the floor of the garage down.
I will also ask you to provide us drawings of the four elevations of this garage, that accurate, that some can describe what it is, and what details are relevant and irrelevant. Just remove from this application what is irrelevant, including the cupola if you're not going to use it. To make sure
Yeah, that's it. That doesn't affect, those elements don't affect the one you just described, so I see no reason why you cannot finish the inside of it.
Okay.
But I think that's a conversation
With
building
Ed?
department.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry we had this problem. Thank you.
Anyone second? Motion to continue, Gary seconds. Unanimous. Okay, thanks. Next up is 9 Cricket Lane. We're going to take a 2-minute break for now, and we're going to get a drink of water. We're only halfway through. Anyone else want to?
That's a great idea. No jugs today.
We got a jug. Reach in for me.
How are you? You here for 55 or 55? How's everything? Haven't seen you in a while. We are at, I'll tell you in a minute. We are at 9 Cricket Lane, so 55, no, 1 and 2. This one is just a sign and this one is just a fence. I don't know how long 9 Cricket Lane will be. Until we finish. We were here until midnight once. You know, what happened was that we didn't have a meeting last month, the second meeting, so then everything just spills over. Did they sell the house? What happened? 55? Or are they just renovating it? Nothing. I don't know what happened. Not that I know of.
No. You know, in future, if you can submit this to us, it's so much easier. Because we compete for desk space.
Is this yours?
Okay, thank you for being patient, I presume, with Pine Creek.
Hi, my name is Susan Dean. I'm a project designer with Universal Architects, and I'm presenting on behalf of Tom and Liz Bales at 9 Cricket Lane. I just handed out revised drawings, I have some slight modifications to the windows and the dormers. As we went to construction drawings, we refined a bit to tie the new, more closely to the old house. And I'll take you through the changes from what was submitted as I go through. This project received zoning approval for, back in April because it's a non-conforming side yard setback. This project has three components. There's an existing porch that we are extending and closing to provide a stair to the house. We are also, there's a two-story addition here, but that's not really in keeping with the house it's fiberglass, which eventually the owner would like to replace, but because we are doing the dormer and extending this gable, we would be replacing the clay tile roof on this piece and this one-story piece and all the new work with a slate blend. And so, well, for a few reasons, but that square tile is very difficult to find unless you get it salvaged. And I think the mixed blend of slate would go well with that, with the Tudor house. This is the proposed blend that we're using, mostly 70% of the green, 15% of the black, and the maroon mixed. Right now, this is that two-story piece in the back, and there's a spiral stair. That's a very long house, and that stair is not very user-friendly. So this is the foundation of the porch that we would be extending and adding a stair. And then the dormers there. And that stair comes up to this kind of a link to that family room.
The plans that we have
Yeah.
show a very harmonious addition
Yes, yeah, am I going
and
on?
modification to
Yeah.
the existing house. When you started, you told us that you had updated the drawings since the plans that were submitted to us. So if you could tell us what those are,
Yes.
and I think we've all analyzed the submitted set.
Okay.
We can make a quicker assessment of
Understood,
that impact.
understood. This is what changed, first was, this enclosed stair. This house is a blend of, the older windows are these steel casements with very tight, tight light pattern, but there's also been some modern additions to it with, kind of bigger open windows, and that's sort of, we're replacing the windows here with a larger light pattern to go with that, the bigger panes. And we had that at the stairway addition, but because this is open to a room with a lot of the older steel casements, we are going to try and salvage some of the old steel casements and use them at the stair and the storm panel, because.
And this is at the side that is the non-conforming side yard
That's
section.
right, it's a non-conforming side yard setback, and also, one facing the rear.
And are there any windows there currently?
Right now, it's
Behind where that
it's an enclosed porch. I'm sorry, it's not a finished space. This is it. It's
Yes,
a,
okay.
it's a porch.
All right.
So it's one window.
I think that's it's the right solution, so
Yeah,
if you could show the
worked very
next.
nicely. And just briefly, the dormers, we made them smaller to tie into, sorry, here we go. We have larger dormers here, and studying the details of the old dormers, we felt we should match the size of it, and even though we're deviating and the window, we feel that was just worked better with the house. So that is the other change.
Just those two?
Yes, there's a dormer on this side and on the other side as well. On this side. And this is that extension of the gable. And we modified, I'm sorry, at the back of the house, we had 3 windows here, we went to 2, and we modified the half timbering detail to work. This is the other side of the gable, and we picked up on some of the detailing here. Bit of like a curved wood detail. That we felt worked better.
How much of the roof are you changing to the slate? I understand that some of that clay tile, you can find that clay tile in Canada, by the way.
Yeah.
We did do a house in Scarsdale with the same tile,
Square tile?
the square tile.
Okay.
Tell Christina that, she can call me.
Well, this is that, so that clay tile is on that one-story piece here, and it's on the gable here, so we are replacing all this with stairs. And this piece, and the new roof at the stair will be slate as well.
And then portion of the asphalt is gonna remain.
That is going to remain for now, but the hope is one day to replace it.
Okay, that's definitely positive.
But we didn't want to match it.
Are there any neighbors? Yes, please.
Oh, I know, I'm a neighbor.
Oh, but you,
Do I have any comment? No.
any comments?
No, it's very nice.
It's very nicely done. I think if you are the neighbor on the close side, then I think the solution is the right one, the change of the windows from the initial submission to the one that we had.
Right, not particularly the garage, that one is right on my property.
Motion to approve this as submitted. Do you have a second? Yeah, your seconds. Unanimous. Thank you. The landing. Anyone here from the landing? No? Ed, are there any issues with this? This is the
Yes,
landing.
lighting.
Did they take off the uplighting?
Yeah, take no uplighting and I'm fine with it.
So we have, but the bollard is permissible, is it not?
No, because
Yes.
it's uplighted.
It's just the swivel arm
Horizontal, yes.
version. I'm willing to approve this with the exclusion of the uplight. That, any other issues or?
That's good.
Okay, motion to approve this with the removal of the other four. However many uplights are present here. Yeah, your seconds. Unanimous. Okay. 83 Judson.
Hi, my name is Sam Kim from 83 Judson. I'm here for fencing.
Nice fence. This is very clear. Any questions, any comments from? No. Are there any neighbors? No, okay. Motion to approve is submitted. Dale seconds, unanimous. Okay, thank you. 55 Livingston Avenue. Please.
Here, there is a retaining wall, we're lifting up, filling this zone in order to create the access to the garage, and then the retaining wall is about 6 feet, 5'10", you'll see it in a minute, to 6'10", between 5 and 10, 6'10". And in addition, of course, we're putting in dry wells, extensive dry wells in the back to pick up any storm. These are just the demolition plans, but they do show what was there. And you can see it's been hacked to pieces over the years. Although the second level, it's quite nice. We're retaining some of those rooms in the second level. Alternatively. There's a porch in the back that was open and closed recently, I guess, at some point. We're taking that off and rebuilding it. So this is the front of the house here. We're putting this the vestibule, putting a new balcony, top of the vestibule structure. We're keeping the existing window patterns, so they're quite old windows, which are quite nice with the diamond pattern, so we're keeping that. We're making these windows a bit deeper than they are, rather taller than they are currently. This is remains putting in new oculus windows here, and so we're lifting the window at the top, retaining this window, roughly the same as it was before. And of course, we're stripping off all the vinyl siding, we're putting on shingle siding, which is, we're going to have sort of a blue-gray tone in this family here. And we want to wait until we get large swaths of it to really fine-tune with the final color. It's appropriate. This is the general direction. Trim will be white. And you can see in the back here, there are balconies off the back, and we're opening up the back. The front doors and so forth. And all the living room area, kitchen area, and the lower level. And these are the three doors, three garage doors. White trim, mahogany doors. And this is the little adjacent shed that we're building, which sort of picks up on some of the shingle style architecture of the existing house. We're adding chimney pots, and restoring existing chimneys, repointing them, and so forth. So it's a great opportunity to restore a 1890 era house back to its original with various improvements. This is the side elevation. Again, this is all existing, but just being restored. We are putting new stone, the existing stone, I can go back to the pictures, but it's really a mass that's been ripped apart and kind of broken to pieces. So we're recladding the base with new stone. I'll show you the photographs of the stone in a minute. This is the balcony off the back. This would be the apartment level. This is the garage level. And this is the main floor, kitchen, living room, all the way back to the back. This is the balcony on the back. north. Again, this is the existing volume, and these are additions. And this, you can see, if you look at the dotted line, it doesn't appear very well here, but this is the current driveway comes down and then it drops off rather dramatically. And there are actually some bollards at the end, which suggest someone may have plummeted into Livingston Ridge at one point. But we're making a much gentler slope here with the driveway and bringing it around to, again, to access the field. This is the back of the house, but I've pulled it back so you can see the retaining wall in front of the access to the garage. We'll have some planting, so in front of it, and there'll be a black iron fence just anywhere the wall is over 4 feet. This is all over 4 feet. We'll do black iron fence at 36 inches. This is the back. We have some oversized posts and corners and some brackets. Some steel brackets, sides. This is looking up, you can see looking up the terrace, the terrace on the side of the house is, again, a black iron fence that would be in front of the house, but looking at it from the back. You know, this is a section through, it's illustrative, and you can see the additions within the balconies. This is the attic vestibule in the front. We're redoing the entire, the interior fairly significantly. We stair, opening it up to the second floor, inside. And these are the sections just showing the details of the construction. This is the stone. The stone, we're trying to sort of do something that's similar to the existing stone. It's kind of a square cut gray stone. So this is a photograph actually from the Bedford Stone website showing the stone that so we want to use. This is the pervious paving, the back and the front. And in our case, the stone will have a new stone coating similar to this. This is sort of a picture from one of the projects. Lighting will be historically appropriate. It's a little lamp. This actually is an LED fixture that they somehow make it look like the little asbestos nets that they use in gas lamps, so it looks like a gas lamp. That's really LED. So we're going to have LED fixtures inside and so forth to make it as energy efficient as possible. This is a lamp. Oops. What did I do? Well, I guess that was the end. Yeah, so this is a little step light that's in the back of the retaining wall. This is enough light. It'll be in the front, in the back, and some of the planting areas. And again, this is a lamp on the, this is where I ended before it disappeared. This is the surface amount of exterior light that will be on the top of the porch, the balconies, the roofs of the balconies. And this will be on there's some stunts locations that we have on either side. So Juliet balcony on the very top.
I didn't notice it in the site plan, but the uplight is not permitted.
It's not it's not really an uplight. You can see it. I'm describing it incorrectly. It really just shoots out gently into the.
It's a path illumination
Yeah, it's a
light?
path light,
Like a
not
light,
light.
okay,
Not
okay,
light.
that's.
So it'll be gentle, low-level light. Of course, everything complies with the, the lighting, that little term in the code about the level of lighting, will be low level. Do this a little fast, just because we're all.
No, I mean, I think you're it's very nice to see someone come and do the right thing, to a house that has a lot of potential, which isn't always the case. And I think you've done a beautiful job of sort of discreetly improving the exterior, you know, with some of these changes that are not part of the original house, but somehow feel like they are. And so I think that, you know, those two things make for a very admirable application. I can't, there's no place to find fault in my mind with what we've been presented.
I think this house is in good hands.
Very nice.
Are there any neighbors? Yeah.
I'm Chris Seeker, I'm at 63 Winston, next door. I have a number of questions, and Mr. Russo was very nice to go over everything with me, although I guess not quite everything. From all of the diagrams, and I had picked up some of these, I have 4 pictures just given outside view. I can't figure out where the garage is, because when you look at the side, it just goes down, and there's terraces and there's decks, but I can't figure out where the garage is.
Neil, you can answer, right?
It's actually going to be in, this is the photograph, it's going to be right here. The 3 doors, we're going to open this up. And we're going to change the level a bit here in order to navigate into the garage. This is where you're not looking at.
But this looks like there's a deck down at the very bottom level.
I'm sorry, if you'd like to make a comment, we're happy to hear that, but it's not, this is not an information session for the neighbors.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Any approval here would be pending site plan from the planning board, because this will go to them for that.
Okay.
I did have a couple of questions. I wanted to ask you,
This is the garage.
if they wanted to.
This is the lower level. Where you enter the garage. This below is smart.
I appreciate that information. I was puzzled also by the pictures. When you look from the back, it looks as though the balconies stick out wider than the house. And when you look at the picture I was given from the front, it doesn't look like anything sticks out wider than the house. But the picture from the back looked as though the balconies were wider than the house itself.
They are not. That's not what's depicted.
Okay. Another question I had is about the lights, that would be my complaint or my question, is I'm very much against lights that stay on 24/7 for no reason. I'd be delighted with any lights that had moving sensors on them, especially in the backyard. That's my preference, and I'm just stating it, that's appropriate here. So right now, they have on one of the lights on the side that lights up my driveway, is a sensor.
You're to the north. You're right. You're
I'm at 63, so I'm on that
one house
This
north.
is a significant house that was saying built in 1960s.
If you're facing, you're to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Even currently on the existing house, there's some light that bothers you. Correct.
well,
Because that's all
bothers
that's
me if
changed.
it's a sensor, but when you talk about lights lighting up the whole driveway going down to the yard,
They're not. They're just in the back. They're not coming down the side. There's no
yeah,
walls.
the back I mean, the back is what bothers me.
Why don't you take that into consideration and address it as you continue to develop the lighting, the exterior lighting program? Thank you. Is there another neighbor?
My name is Tom Wheatley, and I live at 51 Livingston. This picture is pretty good, because I'm right here. So I looked down over the...
Could you take the mic so we can get this on the camera record?
You can see I'm pointing to the house next to the remodel. I believe I'm south, the next house south. So just a couple of things. The property does slope down, and I talked to the owner, he was very comfortable with this, but I believe he's gonna start construction in September. And it is quite a drop. But they be very careful because Livingston Ridge has three or four townhouses just bordering this property on the west, just to be careful with the erosion. We had talked about that, so it gets it on the record. The other thing is these decks actually do extend the house quite a bit, and I didn't realize they were rebuilding the porch. I don't know whether that's within the same dimensions.
The same.
Okay. So then we have an additional, as you can see from the side view, just one of the south view, the decks do look like a lot to me. Extend the house. So the way it does take away from my peripheral view, it comes into it a bit, not much. Doesn't affect me straight on. The two decks, the one next to me, and my deck will be seeing these decks. All of our decks are flat, and they're actually recessed. They're half the deck is, the deck part is recessed, so we don't see one another. We'll be totally seeing these decks.
One thing I didn't point out, that we discussed, I know, when we went on site, was this locust tree we're planning to take down. And it's going to have to get a permit for it, of course, but this is going to improve your view tremendously.
That's absolutely true. However, now that I think I was looking at it today, the decks will be, and probably awning will be coming out just as far and going all the way across.
Right. Well, so there's a balcony at this level and a balcony at this level, and then from here up, the volume is exactly the same as it is.
Well, that's
So you
good.
draw your line across, you remove this area, you actually above any structure. And you kind of point out, you look down, of course.
Well, no, it's on the first level of the property.
Okay, I mean, you know, we don't require that people not have visible decks. I mean, you know, it's an immense improvement in your neighbor's house. It'd be quite nice to look at. And actually, I think it improves your, yeah.
Just bring it up, I don't know, I've never been here, and I have no idea whether it matters to you guys or not.
No, we
We take into consideration,
we are
it's just
listening,
that-
and we are listening and taking into consideration your comments, yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Sure.
Just as a point of interest, you mentioned that the porch might have been enclosed illegally. When I moved here in 1954, it was an open, it was an open porch with arches on the second floor. So it was partially enclosed, and then it was at some point enclosed to make part of the house.
I understand this is pending site plan approval, but I think this board is comfortable with the submission as it is. So can we issue an approval here and, obviously pending site plan, yeah? Motion to approve this application as submitted, obviously pending site plan approval. Yeah, your second. Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Okay, 100 Danforth.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of Lincoln Dogberry LLC, 100 Danforth Avenue, the Danforth Apartments. Last time we were before you, we were here for permanent signage. And back here this evening for a request for 5 temporary signs. 2 banner signs and what we call 3 windmaster signs. The photographs were included in your submission package.
So I really have one question. Since you're leasing, I get my question is about what is temporary. And so I'd like to put some kind of time limit on this or something, because obviously the smaller signs or these signs are not affecting it, but it's like this sign that's the issue if it's going to remain up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have turnover. You're going to be.
No. I completely understand your concerns, and we don't want those signs up either.
Okay.
But obviously, 3 very attractive permanent signs approved. They were installed. I hope they came out the way you thought they looked when we presented them. I'm not quite sure how it works, the temporary signs. I mean, I don't know, something I have to keep.
Usually it's 6 months.
6 months.
That would be great if we could do 6 months, and it's absolutely not our intention. That banner on the building is the most expensive units in the entire complex, so obviously we're.
Oh yeah, they're covering windows. I didn't see that. Yeah, all right. So yeah, and so all right. Well, we're on the same. I mean, that's really my only concern. I don't have an issue with some temporary signage until you get to some, the right sort of occupancy level, and then then it comes down and it's another way.
Yeah,
So 6 months.
So 6 month approval. Yeah. Any comments? Okay, motion to approve this as submitted.
Second.
Jill seconds, unanimous. Okay, thank you.
thanks for your patience.
47 Livingston Avenue. Which is frozen yogurt.
Hi, my name is Juliano Pereira. I'm representing Jamie and the store owner. This is for.
What is the amendment? What are you changing?
We're not changing anything. We just requested, this is for the yogurt store, right?
Yeah.
This is just requesting a plate sign for the back of the building. You got it already approved, the front sign.
Okay, I
So
see.
you got a blade sign in the back of the building.
So it's just this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that little guy right
Yep. And the color scheme matches the original approved one? Yep. All right. Any comments? Okay, motion to approve this is submitted.
Second.
No seconds. Unanimous. Thank you.
I'm also the next guy. 29 Kingston Avenue. We got a new signage for the front and for the back. In the front, gonna be channel letters. Kind of colorful, but it's for kids. For a learning experience. So, and also in the back, it's P-mounted letters. It's kind of different. Yeah, set up mounted different. Also the same concept, a little colorful, but that's what we're planning.
And is there a scale issue with the, or what part of the facade do we measure? The whole thing?
The one is on each,
Yeah, which would mean, if I look at this diagram, which is page 3 of 4, looks like it's more than half of the width of the storefront.
Well, my question is it how many of the storefronts does this occupy? Just one?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
How many storefronts does this occupy? Is it just the one storefront, or is it multiple storefronts?
I think this is gonna take all 3. Because it does,
Three,
it's
there
a
are
learning
4.
experience. You can't just have one middle building, because it's not gonna be enough space for a lot of people, but my thing is they're gonna rent the whole place. because I don't know if you can see it in the back, it's also like the same concept, you know, it's like one door, all the same, and all the words in the middle.
I'd have to clarify that with the owner and what space they're taking and calculate the dimensions. You could.
Because you see, if you had 4 different businesses and everyone had the same size sign, the sign has a, there's a ratio of sign to
To the face.
to building, right? So if this is all you have, then this sign is too much. If you have all of this, well, then you're fine.
Well, I believe he has, because if you can see.
I know, you
where-
gotta take the mic, and I don't want you to tell me what you think. I wanna, you have to tell
So
me.
Dan went out there the other day for a sprinkler inspection and confirms that they have 4 storefronts.
So it's the entire facade. All right, so the size of the sign is not a question.
Beautiful.
Everybody likes this? It's playful, fun.
It's cute.
Okay, motion to approve.
Thank you.
Yeah, your seconds. Unanimous.
Good.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
74 Main Street.
Good evening, my name is Megan Halloran, and I am looking to get a sign for storefront 74 Main Street. And a pretty classic sign.
Yes, nice sign.
hanging sign. And
It's
I-
just the one hanging sign, nothing on the window?
Yeah, one hanging sign.
Okay.
I'm a tenant, so I spoke with the owner who also approved it.
Looks good.
Go for it.
I'm happy to hear it's not another nail salon.
Motion to approve as submitted. Any seconds?
Good luck.
Thank you. Sorry you had to wait so long for that. 480 Broadway.
I never got this far.
Christine Wilson, the architect. I'm here to represent Stephen Krusch and Maria Spinella, the new owners of 480 Broadway. And what we're planning to do is do interior renovation work. This is an interesting house because it is, one side of it is once and now was Victorian, built in the 1880s. And then there's a mid-century modern addition attached to it. But we're actually, this is phase 1 of a project that really is more about interior changes. These are just pictures, you see the facade on the left here facing Belden Avenue, and then as you go around the house, there's a very strange addition that was done probably in the 60s, and we plan to, in the next phase, to redo that part. But for this submission, we're actually showing that on the first floor, we're renovating the whole floor, we're putting in new replacement windows, we're rebuilding the mudroom in the back. We're also renovating the bathrooms upstairs, putting replacement windows, some new windows. In the great room, we're also adding windows on the east facade. It's a very dark room. These are the elevations that came on. This is the original 20 units, and what we're planning to do is to replace the windows to have like historical, type windows that are suitable for the Victorian. And then on the mid-century modern, all of these windows and the entry, the garage door
So the places that you have called out as new windows on the south elevation, are those new openings, or are they enlarged openings, or?
On the south side,
Yes.
I'll see if I can get the photograph for you.
I suppose it's a question throughout, but it's not clear.
Some
What you call what you label new window is what, a new opening? Or you're changing the light configuration, or?
We're changing the configuration. There's a very high window here. There are these like sort of 60s sliders. There is a long window here. It's a real a mess, the facade right now. So these are new openings here. All these openings here on the first floor and the second floor are new. But all the openings on the other side of the house here, these are existing.
Mhm. And that other side is the one that's got a thick bamboo overgrowth, right, the south
Yes,
elevation.
and it's very hard to get a photograph of that.
Yeah, okay. You can't see it either.
I have a photograph, but this is it. I don't know if you can take my word for it, but it's a lot like the front of the house.
The owner was at the tree commission this afternoon and, take down 4 trees and indicated that they're gonna take down the row of bamboo as well.
It's really tough to contain bamboo.
These are the photographs I have of that south facade. It's very hard to get pictures. There's a few original windows, and then there's to get an idea of what's going on around it. There is in the front of the house, there's this really odd addition that was done.
Yeah, I know it very well. He was my pediatrician. In fact, he was my grandmother's pediatrician. That's how old he was, Samuel Untrack. And I faked a lot of illnesses, and so I spent a lot of time in that office.
Michael.
And as I know, and his son was an architect, and he did that addition in the back end.
And what we'd like to do, oh wow, it's a completely different color. But right now, it's strange, but this is like a yellow color, and this is a gray color, and then there's a band that wraps all around this mid-century modern band. And we're gonna try to get, instead of two colors, to try to soften all the things that are going on, but to make sure that the Victorian has its own color, and starting here, and then there might be a different shade of that. But we are planning to renovate the porch, and that'll be done. Take off that addition and
So the second phase of the work will, it seems as though you're touching upon what you're calling phase 2, which is an exterior renovation to some degree, with new window openings and some time together. But is there there's a larger program? I mean, I think it would be helpful to know what that is.
see
Or is it mostly an interior renovation?
it's mostly interior right now because all the kitchen and baths have to be redone. And it's just a budget issue right now, but these, right now, there's actually, the interior has these little rooms, they're little exam rooms, and we're going to bring back the original dining room, which is why we have these 2 long windows here, where this is actually was once a big angled bay. So we're only going to replace this window, but, phase 2 will be removing this. And we have some preliminary drawings, I didn't bring them tonight, of the porch, because we have old photographs of the house, and we're trying to figure out what the porch used to look like. But our plans are even set up so that these strange little spaces are just now little closets, because this is what's left of it, and eventually that'll be just removed. I'm only explaining that because it's really, I know it's an odd house.
It's an old house.
I think it's just the proportion of the addition that was done is just strange.
You know, it's actually really nice inside.
Inside, yeah, it's
like
a
a-
sort of sunken living room and this
Such an
big
odd-
seal, it's this whole one volume, but it
Yeah.
is yeah.
Well, I was just looking at the sliders in the living room that you're replacing. Those are the sliders that go into the living room space?
Yes.
And at some point in the future, you're going to have some sort of intervention in the modernist portion of the house, or no, that'll always stay pretty much as it is?
No, I think I feel that you almost have to, there almost has to be an acceptance that you've got mid-century modern next to Victorian, because it's not very old, and inside it has like a Brazilian cherry paneling. It's something, there's so much about it. There's really nice staircase that's distinctively mid-century modern. And on the outside, we have to make a lot of huge changes to tie it in with the Victorian.
I just wonder, the thing that I find is most distressing about the house is the connector between the old and the new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in
Those
fact,
long horizontal windows above the doors, that, to me, that probably is what makes the one piece not be able to stand alone in some successful way. But
Yeah, that's a good point.
and yeah, in fact, I almost feel like there should be a break here between the two, so they're like they're two houses, but we are not really, we are
Not yet.
going to be thinking about that for phase two. They have to get into the house, we want to do the interior, make sure it's comfortable, and then we'll start looking at the exterior.
Yeah. Motion to approve this application as submitted. Looks good to me.
Yeah.
Unanimous? Thanks. Undenied, no. I think it's a drawing. That line.
Was this on the list?
29 Belden.
No, 60 dollars.
60 wasn't on our list, but we had it in our packet.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda.
What's yours?
Yes.
Is that you?
You?
No,
Oh.
I expected to see it on the agenda.
Oh.
I'm here for 29, actually, but, you know, I got a notice for that one too.
I thought you were the only person remaining now, so it has to be you.
No, I'm going to, I'm going to
Yes?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Vero, Overbridge Architects, representing 109 Belden. I again, as we did before, one plan and one supplement. We're here tonight to talk about our attached garage. We are proposing a 2-car garage with a 9 by 14 storage area attached to it, which is connected via a mudroom, 10 by 11 mudroom, to the previously approved addition, the kitchen and powder room addition. If you turn to drawing 2.3, it's kind of the best indication of the scale of our building. We are keeping with
the vernacular of the house, featuring the mansard slate roof, dormer, also matching with the existing dormers of the house in the attic, and which gives us a little studio space above the garage. And connecting to the breezeway, which is glass in area with columns to lighten it up, and that is a one-story element. From the alleyway, the elevation is shown at 2.2. We're featuring a double open door and a little side door that will locate to the house. On the site plan, we are working hard to maintain an apple tree which exists right here, and some trees along the property line which will give us additional screening. The red dashed line that I have in the site plan is the existing garage. So if you take that footprint and you turn it 90 degrees, it's actually pretty much the structure that we're proposing. The current garage is 273 square feet footprint, and our proposed garage is 292, so very similar, plus the mudroom, of course. We're also providing some additional screening at the property line here. One thing I have to mention, the drawing that you have, which is doesn't show the garage from building. So if you'd like to-
It will be on the right.
So this is what you can see from building. Actually, the drawing that you have, we moved the dormer that was here, which is looking at the garage on neighboring property, to the side so that it was turning the suite from building. Then, of course, with the screen and the trees. And there's a beginning of a fence, type of fence that's, that would give us visual screen. As I mentioned, we're keeping within the same materials that we proposed on the main house, which was approved, slate roof, the same trim details, clapboard, and the same color palette. Which I left in my bag. And if you remember that this is our color palette that we're thinking of.
So what's on the second floor of the garage?
The studio space, dormer space.
And how do you access that?
If you look at the plan, I show a dashed line, or if you just there.
This one,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, correct. That's
Is there a connection to the house?
Well, the mudroom is a connection to the
No,
house.
from the second floor?
No. It's a single story connection.
I mean, I can't tell if you can or not.
Sorry?
You're set back 12 feet from the property line.
Right, because the garage is attached, we have to maintain the house setbacks. So on the sideline, we're 12 feet away, and on the rear line, we're 20 feet away.
And the adjacent structure is the adjacent property's garage?
Correct, which is, I think, about a foot away from the property line.
And just because we've been talking about this tonight to some degree. The neighboring house sits where?
The neighboring house sits right, it's
It's
actually.
at the front of the property.
Front of the property. This is not, it's further away actually, paper, but,
Understood.
we located it based on the street. And we're proposing some screening so that we have a big bay window here, that we're actually not looking, at that property. There is quite a bit of screening along here, which we're beginning to paint, improve, add to improve. Also, I want to add, if you look at this with me for a second, this trellis currently exists across the way at 16 Sherman, and we're planning to bring it over to be a part of a garden element. We're planning kind of a flower garden connecting from the barbecue terrace here across to this little folly that's going to be on that side of the property. I have a picture of that, which I can show you.
Is that part of tonight's application?
Yes. Yes, please. So that's the trellis. And this is the kind of fence we'll have to do.
In the permit submittal, after this approval, can I have the amended, the corrected? And also a second floor plan?
Second floor,
The garage.
oh, the garage, okay. I have one there, okay, so I have it set for you, but I guess I have to add a second floor, the garage, then.
So, office space, bathroom, no kitchen.
No kitchen, no bathroom space. Okay.
Maybe we could have a bathroom.
Good, so maybe, we'll have
Can I see that?
but we're not planning to build.
No, the photo. So because this is part of the application, I think the fence is quite nice. I mean, the photograph is quite nice also. But we don't have drawings of this. Are you proposing to do this, this structure or
So
some?
I'm planning to take that structure and bring it over.
Oh, literally, you didn't mean
Pick it
that?
up,
Ah,
Bring it over.
this particular one?
That,
Love it.
In this location.
Okay, then,
And,
no need
you
to
know,
draw
we'll
that.
paint it a
Yeah.
different color, but that's.
Yeah,
that's
understood.
exactly-
It's a very nice folly.
Yeah, it is, very nice.
I'm
It's a very nice.
It looks fantastic with the.
It really
the house
does.
is a very
And it's a nice
very subtle
property.
connection. Motion to approve as submitted.
Did you have something to say?
I object completely.
Oh, please,
So I have
what's?
to, please don't approve it.
Oh, well,
Oops.
Or
you
just,
shook your hand at me, I thought that meant you didn't have anything to say.
excuse me, I do. A lot. Could you? This is from Mr. Manley. You guys are just one, and this one asked me, it's a long one, but. And,
Can you take the microphone?
Okay, my name is Peggy Markey, I live at 37 Belden Avenue, and I'm the immediate neighbor to the east of Mr. Winiarski's property at 29 Belden. Now, him kind of a written presentation, and I'm essentially not exactly going to read it, but to follow it pretty closely. So I'd like to thank Kat Kearney and Dan Romer of the building department for helping me to get the plans I needed, and to Mr. Winiarski for listening to my concerns about our trees. And he has taken some action, and I hope that, as things progress, he'll continue to maintain the trees, which are very important to me, and I think to him too. And I hope that Mr. Winiarski understands that overall, I completely support his efforts to renovate 29 Belleville. Nevertheless, I do have some serious concerns about the present proposal, and I hope that you will see my concerns as constructive and supportive of the overall effort to improve the neighborhood and make 29 Belleville wonderful again. Okay, first, I'd like to look at this photo from 1943. This is looking north, and the white building in the corner is my garage, my current garage. The building behind it is a structure that was actually on 29 Belden in 1943. And keep this in mind, that's all I would say. This structure was gone by 1979 when I bought the house. Okay, now the next one. Can I scroll? Yes, perfect. Okay. Now, this is the tax map from the Greenberg Tax Office website, and I put an overlay on it of an aerial view from 2013. And I added the house numbers. And on the printed copy, I think I've put in also all the names of the owners, because a lot of times we don't actually know their house numbers, we call them by name, and I didn't want it to be confusing. Okay, now, because this is 2013, the Winiarskis had not started their renovations of 16 and 10 Sherman. Okay, or maybe they had started, but yeah, they started, but their new garages on both 10 and 16 don't show on this plan. Okay, just to tell you. However, if you look at all of the other garages, there's not one garage that's attached. None of them are attached. Also, all of the garages, except for the one actually on 29 and this tiny one over on 40, basically line up along North Lane. And I will say that when garages were put on 16 and 10 Sherman, that's exactly where those garages were put, right on North Lane. They were not attached to the house, and they conform essentially to what all the other garages do. Okay. Next, the area that I've outlined in the red square, that's obviously my house on the right and Mr. Carson's on the left. And so that's what we're going to get next. Okay. This is a combination, all right, of Winiarski's plan and a copy of my own survey when I bought my house in 1979. So if you're interested, you can see my survey was done by hand. So it shows you how old it is. Okay. What's outlined in green, both on my property and Mr. Winiarski's, is what was, I'll say, there originally. Okay? The magenta areas are what was added in the first phase of the restoration, and I have no problem with them. I think they're fine additions. The orange section up here is what they're going to add with their present proposal. And the mudroom, as you can, this is exactly from his plan, and I've just colored it in. So, but I present this because I think it shows the relationship of this building to my property better than just looking at the plans for 29. Okay? Now, my concern is this. I believe that the new mudroom, the storage area, and the garage add far too much mass to the existing house. And in addition to being excessively massive, the proposal to attach the garage, a mudroom to the house, is completely against the character of all the other houses on North Lane, those on Sherman and those on Belden, including the Winiarski's own two properties at 10 and 16. Okay, now we'll go to the next page. This is a side elevation which combines Winiarski's properties and my property. And one of the things I noticed when I tried to explain to my neighbors about this, what Mr. Winiarski's proposing, is I said, you know, the total of his new building is going to be 90 feet long. I had one neighbor say to me, that's impossible. The lot is only 150 feet long. It's not only not impossible, it's exactly what he wants to do. And if you'll notice here, I've indicated on your, you can't see it on this photo, but on the printed material I gave you, I've indicated that the distance from the front of the property to the beginning of this house is 35 feet. The original house is 42 feet. The original extension is 15 feet. The mudroom is 11 feet. The new garage is 20 feet. And my own garage, which I've also included, is 20 feet. And then there's a 4-foot gap between my garage and North Lane. That adds up to 250 feet. What this means is that I completely lose my view looking westward. I'm also concerned, you know, I'm not just concerned about the blocking. In this configuration, I feel the height of the building is a real negative for reasons similar to what was expressed in number 51.
No, these are not the same. They're just simply not the same. And I have a question for you. What view are you losing?
What do you mean, what view am I losing?
What view are you losing? Because there's a view, you're claiming that there's a view that you're going to be losing. Which, by the way, even if it were if your neighbor were blocking your view to the river, for example, and they were as of right, that's not a thing that this board can address. And that's a thing that we would all be very sympathetic to, but you're discussing the question of view, and I don't believe that this is a relevant issue here, quite frankly.
I think it very much detracts from the openness and character of my backyard to have this. But even if you don't, even if that's not a concern to you, please allow me to continue. Because honestly, okay. What I would ask is, and if you would look on the next page, please, and I know you're tired, and I appreciate, believe me, I appreciate the time, but this is a very serious matter to me, and
I understand that, and we are hearing you. Pardon?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
There was a planning board approval here for the footprint.
Yeah, I mean,
This is architectural review.
Well, the planning, my understanding is that we were not noticed about the planning board because it was a preliminary hearing. The woman presented this in about 10 minutes. I watched it actually. But we knew nothing about this. We were not noticed about this. What we were told, what we were told is that the hearing is on the 6th of July for the planning for this.
Does this send to public hearing?
Yeah, can I answer?
Yes.
Please do, but I...
No, it's not true that everybody was notified because we were hoping to get through on our first meeting. And in the course of presentation, everything was absolutely fine. There was no objections. It's just that legally they couldn't approve it on the first meeting. So it was a preliminary, but everybody was notified.
Excuse I don't know what you mean by notified. Are you saying you sent me a certified letter?
Absolutely.
I did not receive a certified letter. I received a certified letter for this board.
I have a copy of it.
You may have a copy of it. Do you have my signature on the receipt? That's my question.
Yeah.
Please present it.
We don't require that.
Signature.
We require a receipt from the post office that it was sent.
Which we have.
Well, all I can say is that 10 minutes in front of the planning board, when I didn't know about it,
But it has to go to public hearing.
I actually asked about this in the building department. I said, weren't we notified of the meeting, planning board meeting? Your secretary said, oh no, you'll be notified of the public hearing.
And you will. It's coming up.
So we were not notified.
You were notified, yeah. You really were. And we can show you the proof of mail, if you like.
I would like, because I've never received, I have not received it.
problem.
But let's not,
So
please
this
let's
will
not
go
argue
back
about
That's, yeah, this is not
Please
planning
let-
board.
I'm sorry?
This will go back before the planning board because they had preliminary.
Yes, exactly, they had a preliminary, I watched it, and, you know. But what I wanted to say is this, that I personally feel there's a far better solution to adding the garage space, the mudroom, storage space, all of which I think is fine, frankly. And I don't have a problem with demolishing the garage, the existing garage either. But I feel that all of this mass, and I've made this the same area, should go back to where actually it was in the 40s. To me, this gives a much better use of a yard space, much more circulation, and it's congruent with everything else that's back on North Lane. Okay? In addition, they could have more windows. This is the north side of the existing addition. If they didn't attach the mudroom to this little recessed area, they'd have more windows on both sides, which would be nice. It's pretty back there. Okay? Here, by the way, are the garages that exist at number 16. And you can see they conform. If you look on the right, there's another garage from another property. And these garages conform exactly to what is already there. And, I have another view here. This is from Google. This is Winnie Arsky's 16 Sherman. And again, you can see that the garage lines up with North Lane. What I would ask is, please consider this alternative way to do it. It would be so much nicer, not only for me, but for everyone else in the neighborhood. And I really feel that what is being proposed is just too massive. It's, all I'll have to look at when I look west is a building, start to finish. But even if, as I say, even if that is not of importance to you, I would ask you to consider relocating for these reasons. To reduce the excessive massing, to preserve the current character and siting of the houses and garages on North Lane, to make a more open viewscape from number 29 towards North Lane. They'll get a lot more nice garden area. To open up the yard space at 29 Belden and eliminate the awkward corners and areas that extending the, attaching the garage and mudroom produces. And I would say to preserve my own viewscape. I would further like to say, I hope that all parties receive my objections in the collaborative spirit in which they are offered. I'm very pleased that 29 is being renovated. I hope it's going to be wonderful, but I just can't get behind this current proposal.
Thank you. Just to make a couple of comments, I think the nature of connecting the garage of the studio to the house is to have a continuous walkway from the inside of the big house to the garage. I think it's a decision that's a programmatic decision by the client, and architecturally speaking is well resolved. From your 5 points that you present in your conclusion, I agree with 3, but it's a choice. I agree with the massing. You know, it's a long continuous massing, maybe, but it's well resolved in terms of articulation of the different components on the site. The site is large enough to be able to absorb it without any problem. I agree, though, with the character of the other houses. Yes, the proximity to North Lane will be more in character, but if you recess it a little bit more or less, it doesn't change much of the character of North Lane. It's still a service road, and it's an issue of context, but I think it's not in the same degree of context on Belden. If you're out of character on Belden, will be much more substantial in terms of relationship. If you go to the back, I think you can relax a little bit the standards of the context. I agree again with the open view, what you refer to the open viewscape. I agree, it's a reality. The other 2 points that you make, the preserve my own viewscape, it's arguable that is subjective, and but again, I think that this is a programmatic decision that we have to respect. I don't think that.
Well, I would like to ask then, why did the Winiarskis choose not to connect for their own houses, their garages?
I don't think it's a relevant question. I think it's you asked that question on a per project basis, and if there's a program or site or house that lends itself towards one resolution or another, I mean, I don't think you can just sort of apply that across the board. Well, they didn't do it here, why wouldn't you do it here? The neighbor didn't do it, why should the other neighbor do it? I don't know that I don't see that as the relevant question. I mean, none of us do, I think, is the.
Well, all I can say is, I really hope you'll reconsider, because I don't know, it just.
I see that you're distressed. However,
Extremely.
and I'm trying to find, I'm trying to find some understanding of where it's coming from. But when I look at what's been presented, I find it to be an intelligent and harmonious resolution to a series of problems that are based on a program that the owners is trying to solve. And so I'm finding a hard time accessing what's so detrimental about the proposal. I'm at a loss, to be quite honest. I think we all are, and that's.
Well, can I?
Let's see. I've heard your point.
I would ask if there's an opportunity to make the connector more transparent. The mudroom piece that connects the.
No, because we made it completely transparent on our garden side. Otherwise, we lose any purpose of the mudroom. And just, it was mentioned the view in this direction, these are all evergreens.
I was going to say, isn't that completely screened?
So there is really no view that way. I mean,
There are no evergreens on your property.
yeah, there is. There's a big evergreen here.
Yes,
There are hollies here. And we can continue that screening along our property line to screen the garage from your property. So this view really doesn't, is not as significant as and the other thing, and I agree that, the alleyways are very relaxed on the street. The garage is varied from 0 setback to 19 foot setback. And we're
Can I ask you a question, Billy? This is a subjective, this is based on this sketch that you provide us. This is based on this sketch that you have provided us.
I can't really hear you.
This is based on this sketch that you have provided us.
Yes.
You prefer the green versus the green. You prefer the green and this, not this, correct?
Correct.
But the net result is the same. You have the, you may block this view, but you save this view in favor of the other one. I don't know. Why so critical? Because the net result is the same.
You're right that the total area and volume are the same. It's a question of placement.
Correct. But it's a question also of respecting the desire, programmatic desire of a client that wants to go from the garage to the kitchen or whatever area is, or the inside of the house without getting wet in a rainy day.
Well, I mean, I'm only saying, and I will repeat that, I do feel that to separate these two and to put the garage and the other areas back onto North Lane much better reflects the character of our neighborhood. And I will say a lot of the screening, the pine tree does screen, that's the large evergreen you're talking about. The other trees which are drawn on there are actually my trees. I know they're shown on his property, they're my trees. I like that screening too, definitely, I like it. One of the other evergreens, which is one of Mr. Winiarski's trees, is a yew. That tree has already been very badly damaged. I don't know if it's going to fall over yet, but it's been badly damaged by the construction equipment. Also, I mean, I will say that one of my other concerns, frankly, is what kind of fence is going to go between our properties.
I'm sure they're going to have a great fence because all the fences that they have installed so far are great. And
If that's what you think,
based on my assumptions on the quality of the work they've been doing so far, it exceeds expectations.
Also, they're doing this as of right. There's nothing that's,
I understand it's as of right.
And there's...
That's not my concern.
I think that the only, you're asking us to take a position that we don't agree with in any respect. And so your only recourse is to discuss this with Mr. Winiarski as to whether or not he's willing to change his program, and as opposed to asking us to insist that a perfectly harmonious solution to his problem be dismissed, and we ask him for a different program, and I'm not willing to do that. I do not think that is a fair thing to impose on an applicant, which is to say, we don't agree with your program, you have to find another one, because there is nothing architecturally problematic with the solution to the current program. I suppose you could bring this up also as a planning board, but I'm sorry, we've heard you. I wish there was some solution that we could come to, but I don't see that happening.
Anyway, I guess I'll see what the planning board. I'm surprised at your reaction, frankly. I thought that you were concerned with questions about excessive.
We are, and this is we don't consider this to be excessive massing. I mean, take a look at the site plan. What's excessive about the?
Well, all I can say is I used to be able to look west and see another yard, another yard. Now I'm going to.
But that's not your right to always see empty space.
If there was no house there and somebody built a house as of right, then you would have said...
This property could be subdivided and built up quite a bit more than what it is now. And so, and that's not been the solution to a very large piece of land, which could be valuable in other respects as multiple homes. I think that, it's interesting. it's interesting that, I mean, maybe the best historic renovation occurring in the village now for as long as I've been on this board is this project. And so and I think everything that's being done is being done very well. I think you're very lucky to have this happening next door, to be honest. You've been looking at a rundown, dilapidated house for, I mean, my entire life it's looked like that. And I've grown up here, and I walk by that house every day going to high school, and it's always looked like that.
I wish I could express better how I feel about this. Obviously, you don't know.
I think you did. I think
You have. I always just.
Your arguments are very compelling.
But can I just say that naturally, I would be thrilled when the house is finished. And I would probably put my house on the market immediately afterwards. And I'm sure it'll sell for more than it would if I put it on the market now. I don't have any doubt about that. Okay? And I tried to say in the beginning, I'm very happy and supportive of Mr. Winiarski's efforts. But this particular thing, I don't support. And I hoped to get a more sympathetic hearing, but okay, you know. I will certainly be at the planning board and, see what can be done there, if anything. And thank you very much. If there are any questions.
We really are trying to do the right thing for that house. I mean, I know you don't live, I said that to you the other day, and you kind of laughed at me, but we really are trying to do the right thing.
I didn't mean to laugh at you, that's what I did, and I think I tried to express respect.
I think that we can react to what is being presented to us and consider all the arguments, including yours, and make a decision.
That's right. I mean, are we, Ed, is this sorry, I lost my machine. Is this an application, full application?
This is, you can continue it or approve it pending planning board as you've done in the past.
I believe it should be approved. I'm willing to.
I'm fine with that.
I'm going to make a motion, we approve this as submitted. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any your seconds?
Approved.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
And we received a packet for 60 Belvin, which is a fence, but it's not on the agenda. Take that up.
That wasn't on that, so it was
Got it. Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Approved. Let's go.